name's Bond. James Bond.
Bond.
James.
Bond, what do you think you're doing?
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
Welcome to James Bond Radio. News, reviews, and discussion of all things 007.
Pussy. As you can see, I have no problem with female authority.
Oh, pipe down, 007.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Hello and welcome to James Bond Radio episode number 55. This week we are concluding our coverage of the Bond girls, and it's all very exciting too for it. My name's Tom Sears and I'm joined by my good buddy Chris Wright. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Now, are you excited to conclude our Bond girlage today? We're going from Goldeneye all the way up to the present day, so we've got some good Bond girlage to kind of get our teeth stuck into. Are you excited for it?
I am excited, but I'm also a bit sad because I enjoy the Bond girl section. I enjoy sort of running through them all and picking out the hotties and all this sort of thing. So it'll be great, but also it'll be a bit sad at the same time.
Absolutely. Now, in other news, Chris, I don't know whether you're aware of this, but we're 2 weeks out from Spectre now. 2 weeks out from Spectre. That has crept up on us, isn't it?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's like what? That's not much at all, really, is it?
It isn't. It's like 2 weeks and 3 days until the big day, man. Are you excited?
Wow. Well, I sometimes, I mean, obviously I'm excited. Obviously, like, I can't help it. But sometimes I try to block that excitement if I can.
Yeah.
Just when it's that little bit still quite a way to go. Otherwise, I almost run out of excitement juice. Although that never happens. That's what I think might happen. So I try to not think about it, and then when it's like 3 days to go or like 5 days to go, I'm just going to let loose and just be a constant source of
balls fill up with excitement juice, Chris. So it's like blue balls ready to blow for the big day. Yeah, good stuff. Exciting times.
Hell yeah.
Now, in other news as well, Chris, I had a very, very special day earlier this week. And I went to visit a certain somebody who's a very special person in the Bond world, and had a brilliant interview, which will be coming out next Friday. Next week, we've got a special episode of JBR. I'm very excited for it. I know you are too. Got some amazing footage, got some amazing stories. It's going to be a classic, I reckon. You
know what? Like, most of the interviews, obviously, we do together. There's a few that I did without you, and that was kind of a bit strange, but it's still pretty cool. But I don't know if I've listened to one where it's just been you interviewing, so I'm going to be like proper just as excited and eager as everyone else just to listen. Plus, I've got the secret inside knowledge, and I know who it is, and I just can't wait, man. It's going to be so good.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a
jealous.
Good one. So, what have you been up to this week? Anything good?
Well, I've been trying to get a little bit of training in. My ultra marathon is tomorrow, so I'm a little bit unsure about that. And hopefully I'll survive that.
Very nice.
Which is pretty cool. I've been I got sort of trigger mortis, in fact, a few weeks ago, but I wasn't sure whether to jump straight in and read that, or perhaps read Goldfinger prior to that, because I haven't read the Flemings for a long, long time. So I thought I'll start with Goldfinger because obviously the connection, everything like that. So I'm about maybe a third to nearly halfway through Goldfinger, so it's really interesting, and then I'll get started on Trigger Mortis after that. But it's so cool just reading the Flemings, because it's been a long time, and obviously you notice things that they've used for the films and how they adapted certain things for the films. Then there are certain things which definitely wouldn't fit in the film, and you're like, obviously that worked for the better, sort of leaving it out. And some things that obviously they introduced completely new in the film compared to the book. So it's really nice to get that sort of analysis between the two. And I've never really done that before. Yeah. So after Trigger Mortis, I might go back from Casino Royale from the start. Obviously, that will be a little bit, quite different. But, go back to the start of the Flemings and try and see what little nuggets I can find as well for future Bonds. That's my mission, to find potential titles or potential little nuggets which might be plucked for future Bond films.
I reckon there's going to be a lot of nuggets in there that are ripe for the pillage, I reckon. without doubt. Yeah, I'm about 2/3 the way into Trigger Mortis myself. I haven't quite had time to finish it yet, but I'm playing through. Good old JBR listener Jack Lugo has finished it. He's written a review on the JBR website. So if you finished it, make sure you check that out. I haven't read it yet, obviously, because I want to finish the book before I read his review. But that's much fun. But so far, it's right up there as a classic Bond story. I reckon he's done a good job. Obviously, I won't say any more, Chris, because you haven't even started it yet. Now, in other news, today and most of tomorrow is the last chance to get your JBR T-shirt. It's coming off the market as of October 10th, the end of October 10th. So come to jamesbondradio.com. You'll see the banner on the side. Get your JBR T-shirt, and there you are. You're sporting a particularly lovely example of the JBR T-shirt. So if you want one, get involved right now before you forget, and because you won't be able to get them after tomorrow. Okay, good stuff. JBR, very fashionable T-shirts. Makes you more desirable, whether you're a man or a woman. It makes you more desirable and more spy-like, I might add.
It certainly does. It helps you when you want to do sneaky stuff. It's got good dark colouring for that. It's a nice cut fit. It's a well cut fit, so it's slimming. It makes you feel fit, and like you said, you'll just be desired by everyone else.
Absolutely, and we are in talks with Eon Productions for Daniel to wear one in Bond 25. So there is that as well. So that'll be good. Now, actually,
for the whole film, hopefully.
Yeah, the whole film. He's not even going to wear a tux next time. Apparently, it's just the JBR T-shirt. But Paul Coulthard, JBR listener, wrote in to say when he goes to watch Spectre, he's going to be rocking the JBR T-shirt, and he said what he thinks we should do is do a call to arms for all the JBR listeners to wear their JBR T-shirt when they go and watch Spectre, and it's almost like a little signal. It's like the little signal that you're amongst good company. So that's the call to arms for Paul. When you go and watch Spectre, do wear your JBR T-shirt, and then you can have clandestine meetings with other JBRers after the film. That'll be good.
And get a couple of little snaps outside the cinema or wherever you might be. That'd
Damn
be
right.
Cool too.
Yeah.
Nice. So I just going back to the last podcast last week. Obviously, it's been loads and loads and loads of talk, debate, and everything about the whole Sam Smith writings on the wall. But we have to go back just to mention, obviously, it's hit number 1 UK charts, first Bond song ever.
Yeah,
is that right? Within
That's
the UK,
right.
It's the number 1.
It's the first UK one. Duran Duran went to number 1 with View to a Kill, I think, in America,
in the States,
but not in England. Yeah,
that's right. So I mean, some people are saying that was due to pre-ordering it. Obviously, people hadn't heard it. They heard the first 15 seconds and like, boom, I'm going to get that.
Yeah.
So that might have had something to do with it. But overall, it doesn't lie. Number 1 in the charts, that's pretty damn good going. You got to be happy with that if you're Sam Smith, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's 2 ways to look at that. I think, to be honest with you, I think a number 1 single is by no means a badge of quality. There have been some
that is
hit songs at number 1, for crying out loud. Let's face it. But I think overall it's a good thing for Bond in the sense that it's a new record for the film. It's going to get the name of the film out there to more people who perhaps wouldn't have gone to see it. Things like that, So it's definitely a good sign for sure. Whether you like the song or not.
Do you think? Here's an interesting question. Do you think Writings on the Wall would have made a good film title, a good Bond film title?
I don't know about that. It doesn't leap out to me. Do you know what it sounds like? It could be almost like a Fleming chapter in a book,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. But
it'd be quite a good title. Yeah, chapter title, but for a film, maybe not quite that.
Yeah, completely. So there we go. Congratulations to Sam for that little achievement. It's good stuff. I suppose it's worth noting as well, though, that in order to get a number 1 single, like people comparing it to the Duran Duran one, like to get a number 1 single back in the 80s or the 70s or the 60s or wherever, or even the 90s, you had to sell way more than you do now. And I think you can get a number 1 single with just like 50 or 60,000 downloads, but even so, it's. Do
you think Spectre Loopy's going to get to number 1 then? Or?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I think with the strength of the JBR army, once the Spectre Loopy single comes out, then there's, at least top 20 maybe even top 10 if we're lucky. Yeah,
good.
without doubt, we can make that happen, I'm sure. Cool. So before we crack on then, make sure you come and join us on Facebook. Just pop James Bond Radio into the search box on Facebook. Lots of good conversation to be had over there. Come and follow us on Twitter, which is just at James Bond Radio. And also come over to jamesbondradio.com, where first of all, you can buy your JBR t-shirt if you act fast, Chris, if they act fast and get their one now.
Has to be fast.
Before it ends tomorrow. You can join in the conversation in the comments section, all the blog posts and the podcast posts and all that kind of stuff. There's good combo to be had there. And last but not least, do come along to iTunes and leave us a lovely glowing 5-star review. Again, just put James Bond Radio into the search and you'll find us, because that helps us rank higher and get more listeners. And of course, last but not least, again, if you come over to jamesbondradio.com and leave us a voicemail, there's a big old button on the right hand side of the page where you can leave us a trivia question or a quote or whatever it is, any kind of message for an upcoming mailbag episode, whatever it is. We love to hear from you, so do that. So it's all good, isn't it, Chris?
Excellent stuff. Yeah, we like to hear. Well, I mean, it's great to have the regulars who sort of get in their messages. It's lovely to hear that. But it's also really cool to get new people. Maybe if you're at home and you listen to the podcast and you enjoy it, but when you're listening to it, you've got an idea or you've got a quote you want to do, just go for it, press the button, send it in. And it's always great to hear sort of new people with some new material.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something else interesting as well. Good old JBR listener, Echo13 on Twitter. That's all spelled out, Echo 13, I think, has been live tweeting the James Bond Radio episodes. So what he does on like a Saturday morning or whatever, he'll sit down and he'll listen to the JBR episode and then he'll live tweet it every little thought and nugget he has throughout listening to the episode, which makes quite interesting reading. I actually sat down and read through the last one. It was quite fun. And he always does it with hashtag JBR. So if you do a hashtag JBR search on Twitter, you'll be able to see that, and maybe you can join him as a live tweeter next time you listen to JBR. So I think it's time for a bit of Bond trivia, don't you, Chris?
I do, and I'm going to open the door and let you go first this week.
Oh, lovely. How very kind and gentlemanly of you. I like it. Now, this one, I'm going to just give it a little note beforehand, though I suspect you will probably know this anyway. What I need is the name of the character rather than the actor. But if you get the actor, which you have good knowledge of that. So if you get the actor, then that's a bonus point.
Okay.
So my question of the day is, Chris,
yes.
Which actor who appeared in Diamonds Are Forever, not the core cast, obviously, right? Which actor who appeared in Diamonds Are Forever also appeared in another Bond film, and what was that film? Okay, so this is obviously a minor part. This isn't one of the major characters. Yeah. So does that ring any bells for you so far?
I know there are quite a few. There's a couple in Diamonds. I think were in other films, but yeah, it's definitely. I'll have a good think about that. I think.
All right,
yeah,
good stuff.
Okay,
So
you're looking for the character name or the actor's name?
So
or both.
Either or both. So basically, there's a character whose name you will know in Diamonds Are Forever, and he also showed up in another Bond film as like as another minor character. So that's all I need,
okay.
And the name of the film basically.
Cool. Wicked. Okay, sounds good. Excellent stuff. Okay, so my trivia for this week is Bond girl related, and it is: can you tell me what the middle names are for the Goldeneye Bond girls, Xenia Onatop and Natalya Simonova?
Do you know what, Chris? I think I can achieve that, actually. Yeah. All right.
I thought you might be able to.
Yeah. There was a time. I remember
just
being on holiday when I was a kid in Malta and walking past this marketplace, and they had, back in the day, way back in the day, obviously 95, pre-internet, they had loads of pirate videos. And I remember, to my shame, buying a pirate copy of Goldeneye, obviously way before it was out on video and all that kind of stuff. And I think it might have even been one of those dodgy jobbies where they would sit in the cinema with a camera and like just film the screen, so the quality was shit. I kid you not, man. I watched that video like every day, at least once, for God knows how long. So I'm well versed in my Goldeneye for sure. Yeah. Coolio. So I think it's time to start some Bond girl coverage, don't you, Chris?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. So last time we left off was License to Kill. So quite fittingly, we're going to start today with Goldeneye. So we're going to start with Caroline, Now, she appears in the part just after the title sequence where we go from Tina Turner's bombastic song straight into the DB5, revving it down the hill, and then suddenly sitting next to him is Caroline in the passenger seat when Xenia turns up in the Ferrari. Now, what do we think of Caroline?
She's a funny one, isn't she? Like it's like this is the first time we see the new Bond. Remember, there's the big break after License. Obviously, it's been 6 years, and this is the first Bond girl we really see in the film. Sitting next to Bond in the car. He's in the Aston, burning it through the mountains above Monaco or wherever it is, and there she is, and she's not enjoying herself. She seems like a very sort of like they could have gone with some bodacious blonde bimbo, couldn't they? But they went with like what I would describe as like a very prim and proper kind of school teacher type, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very much so. Oh yeah, very much so. Yeah, definitely. Which I think is better in that sort of role. Now, the interesting thing as well is her character, as we know, was sent to evaluate Bond.
Yeah.
So perhaps. So what does that tell you? Obviously, MI6. Obviously, in Skyfall, we see he gets an evaluation, doesn't he? Because he's obviously been away. They thought he died, and he comes back. But the fact that he has one at the start of Goldeneye almost makes you think, well, what happened prior to that? Is that something that they give all their agents on a yearly basis, or on a frequent basis, or did something happen, which is why they need to sort of give him a psychological evaluation? Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's like, when you operate on an elite level, you need to be checked in on, have a medical every 6 months or whatever it is. And I suppose, especially with Bond's propensity to be a little bit of a rebel and sort of play outside the rules, then maybe it was just, let's go and keep an eye on 007 for a bit and make sure he's behaving himself, which of course he isn't, which makes it even better. I like the way she's another one, isn't she, where she's very uncomfortable with the situation, but she succumbs to his charms almost immediately. If a dude's got a bottle of Bollinger or Dom Perignon or whatever it is underneath the glove compartment box, not the glove compartment box, but that little bit in the middle, she's gonna cave, and she, bless her heart.
I've tried for ages to get like a bottle of champagne or a bottle of Prosecco or a bottle of wine, and I just haven't got a hole that's big enough.
Yeah.
so
comedy gold in there somewhere. Good God.
So all I could fit in was a little miniature with some ice cubes around it. So I might have to give that a go one day.
Very
nice.
Do you think? Yeah, no, that sounds good. Though it could be a recipe for getting arrested by the local constabulary. With alcohol in the car. But so with that, you can't fail to mention the next Bond girl that shows up almost immediately, Miss Xenia Onatopp. Now, what are your thoughts on Xenia?
Absolutely love her. Completely mad about her. Like, I just love the fact that she's like crazy, that she gets off on killing people, that she's like trained army pilot sort of thing, or flying helicopters. She can fight. She can headbutt. She's good with weapons. She's a bloody physical match. And Tom, do you know what she does to kill people?
What? Tell me, what does she do? Does she shoot them or something?
She crushes. No, shooting them. No, that's old school. How you kill people these days is you have sex with them and you crush them with your thighs.
Now
that's how she does it.
That is the way to go, isn't it? If you're going to go, then that would be my choice, being crushed between those rather heavenly thighs. Now, obviously for me, for those who know the story, I bumped into Famke Janssen in the supermarket recently, a few weeks back. And I came out feeling wrong and dirty after the whole thing. I basically went into the supermarket, saw her, there she is standing in line, waiting to get her lunch or whatever. And I obviously very quietly start freaking out, get the missus to try and sneak a photo. She blatantly noticed. And then she had the ump, bless her heart. Like, you could tell she wasn't in the best of moods even then, very straight faced and very stern looking, which is why I didn't go and say hi, because I thought, man, I can't be shot down by Xenia, Christ. So I thought, let's go the sneaky route. Obviously that was the wrong thing to do. And then as I see her sitting outside eating her lunch, whoever she's with, she's talking and her arms are going and she's really pissed off about something, which I suspect might have been me sneaking a photo. And I walked away from it thinking, oh man, I wanted a really cool photo of Xenia in the supermarket. And now I just feel dirty and rotten. And every time I look at that photo, I just feel bad about myself and life in general. Now, with that said, she's really, really fucking tall, right? When she walked past me in the supermarket, she was actually taller than I am, and I'm 6'1". She's taller than I am by a good way as well. I'm sure that was, with a bit of heels on or whatever. But what I have to say, man, is she is an absolutely stunning looking woman, like striking, in the sense that, like we were talking about Melina Havelock and how she's not that sort of classic sort of pin-up beauty. Like, you take someone like Tanya Roberts and she's got that kind of Baywatch vibe about her, for example. This is different. And she's just got something about her that just like, she's just so striking. That's the only way I can describe it. And it's like, she's another one, like we said about Monica Bellucci, that one was born to be a Bond girl. Xenia is exactly the same. I think she's just so striking to look at and amazing. And I think what a memorable character as well.
There's so many cool scenes with her. If you think about it, when they go to hijack the Tiger helicopter, and she shoots at two pilots after sort of giving them a little "hey boys" sort of thing, and that's class. And when they're in the 7i facility and she gets a machine gun, she's killing them all while having an orgasm. That's pretty decent.
Yeah.
And then obviously we see her sort of strangle Chuck the Admiral with her thighs, obviously a bit earlier on. But then the great scene, one of the best scenes I think, is her and Bond in that sort of spa place. So Bond's having a little swim, which I think that's such a cool setting, that one. Yeah. And then he hears something, gets out of the pool, she's in the sauna or whatever, and then they have their little sort of friendly battle, shall we say, and it gets pretty hot and heavy. Yeah,
that is a cool scene. Definitely. I think Xenia is like she's an all-time classic Bond girl. I think she's one of those that people will remember. That thigh thing is a cool idea. And like you remember, you pointed out, didn't you? They actually sort of came up with that idea years before, when in The Living Daylights they're kind of cycling through, potential snipers in Q's lab, and they bring up some Russian spy or whatever who kills people with their thighs. So that was like the germ of the idea, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, it's cool. So what did you think about Xenia's sort of death? And, obviously she's at the, by the satellite dish. She again comes in by a helicopter, slides down, sort of takes out Bond initially, and then has a battle with Natalya, headbutts her, has a little fight with Bond, and then he sort of clips her, and then shoots a helicopter, so that goes. And then obviously she, we mentioned this before with sort of baddies, but when they get hoisted by their own sort of petard, it's rather fitting, and it kind of works quite well with Xenia, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. She's sort of squeezed between the two limbs of the tree, you could say. So that's a good way to go. It's almost, I feel like you could have brought Xenia back. Do you know what I mean? She could have been a Jaws for the new generation. Do you know what I mean? And there's like I don't know. She
could have been.
Yeah, and I feel like there's that, and also there's the whole Barbara Carrera link as well. Like when you watch Never Say Never Again, Fatima Blush definitely has that Xenia vibe about her, doesn't she? That sort of almost like a dominatrix kind of vibe, So
which we love.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think something like if you were to bed Xenia, it's going to end badly, but it would sort of almost be worth it, wouldn't it? You're going to have a good time minutes before you actually get killed from it,
Yeah. Well, like you said, if you're going to go, not many ways would be better.
Yeah, it's true. Very good. So how do we feel about Natalya then, the main Bond girl of Goldeneye?
Now, of course. Now, Natalya, I think her and Pierce's Bond work really well together. I think there's good chemistry there. It's kind of an interesting one, because here we've got a Bond girl who initially, is not really a part of the mission. She's just kind of happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, doesn't she? Really, she obviously works at the 7i facility. She manages to survive, climb out, and then she thinks Boris is on her side, but finds out he's kind of against her, and it's purely because of her job that she ends up in the place that she is. So Bond then sort of comes along, and they end up, he obviously kind of helps her out and knows that she's in trouble. And then they end up sort of going after, well, obviously towards the end they go after Trevelyan and try to stop his dastardly plan, because she knows all the sort of computer sort of tech geekery which Bond doesn't quite have the knowledge of, which is interesting. No, I think she's cool. Obviously she's dead pretty, great looking girl. The one thing I'd say is you never quite see her in a nice alluring dress or just in a nice little there's a bit on the beach where she's got the little white number, which is quite nice, but aside from that, a lot of it she's wearing a cardigan and you're a bit like
very sort of like Soviet cold looking garb, like a drab cardigan for most of it and all that kind of stuff. What I will say is there's something about Natalya that really just tickles my little bones, which is the way she says Boris, where she goes Boris. I really like that. For some reason, that just gets me in my special place. I like that a lot. Boris. It's nice. But you're right. I think, again, when you look at Isabella Scorupco outside of Bond, I mean, she's got the full on like babe stuff going on. She's, long blonde hair and all the rest of it, bikini shoots, you name it. And you never really see that in her in Goldeneye. And I think there's a reason for it. And I think obviously she's not going to be trotting around in a bikini in Siberia. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. But I think
Mary Goodnight would, though.
She would have done, without a doubt. And I fully support that decision. But I think what it is, I reckon it was, a new Bond for a new generation. The 90s are coming along. They're trying to make him a little bit, there's the line about him being a sexist dinosaur and all that kind of business. I think they were just trying to that was their attempt to bring it up to date. So you didn't have the stereotypical bikini clad Bond girl kind of thing. But again, you do get a glimpse of it on the beach in that sequence. But even then, she's chewing him out for being a cold-hearted bastard,
Yeah. Oh no, there's some good stuff between them. It's definitely not a damsel in distress, and she's sort of hanging on everything that Bond does.
Yeah.
Obviously, she helps him out. She at the very end, obviously, she takes out a guard. She's got the gun and all that sort of stuff. But there's some nice scenes with the two of them as well, like the part where they are on the beach and they're talking about Bond's sort of job, aren't they? And she's, how can he be so cold? And he basically says, oh, well, that's what keeps me alive. So it's quite nice because you learn a bit about Bond and she sort of gets that information out of him purely by not being able to understand how he can do what he does, sort of thing. And I think that's quite a cool bit.
I think it is good. And again, it's one of those things, isn't it, where she has a skill set that Bond doesn't have. So, okay, she's the Bond girl. She's highly skilled in computing or whatever the term is that you would use. So it's like, she's obviously an intelligent woman. She's not just, some shrinking violet. There's that scene in the train where, she's at the computer while Bond's cutting through the floor of the train and she's kind of dealing with that. Obviously Bond helps her to guess the password, but it was like Bond wouldn't know what to do in that situation. She takes over and does it. So she's cool, man. I think she's a really strong character. She doesn't shy away as well. She gets stuck in at the end. She gets her combat gear on. She's running around helping out as well, and all that kind of stuff. I think she's a bang on character. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, too right.
Yeah,
great stuff. Serves the film well.
Yeah. So any honourable mentions for Goldeneye?
I think there's there's no. I think we've gone through the main ones. Obviously, there's Irina, which is obviously Sukovsky's singing mistress type thing, strangling the cat. Played by Minnie Driver in a small little cameo. And then there's sort of various little items here and there, but I guess there's no one majorly to speak of that I can think of outside of that.
I think you can go a little bit too minute with the honourable mentions. We've had a few tweets of like, how could you possibly forget this character from one of the previous Bond girl ones? And it was just like, well, she's on screen for like 2 seconds. Do you know what I mean? So I think, we have to be, unless we want to be sitting here all day, we've got to be a little bit selective with the honourable mentions. So with that said, Chris, what do you think is your favourite Bond girl moment from Goldeneye?
Yep. Now, as much as I like Natalya, and I definitely do like Natalya, for me, Xenia is just so memorable. It's got to be a Xenia scene. Straight away, I'm thinking the sauna fight with Bond slamming her up against the wall. Oh, do you think you'll break me, and stuff like that. I think that's absolutely brilliant. Obviously, strangling Admiral Chuck Farrell to death with her thighs when she's proper giving it the old moaning as well at the same time. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that pleased me as a young boy.
Yeah, oh yeah, certainly. So I think it would have to be one of those two for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me, I think I do like that sauna scene. The no more foreplay line, I think, is a banger. I think that's the most. I do like that thing where she's squeezing him in the sauna and he's smashing her up against the wall, and the way he actually gets rid of her, where it's like that flip he does, where he literally throws her over his head and she lands on the floor. I think is a great little moment. So that would be my vote without a doubt.
And what I liked about that bit as well is if you watch it in slow motion, which I may have done as a wee lad, you can see that there's actually a burn mark because obviously she sat on the
coals,
the sauna heat, isn't she? The coals, and as he flips her over, you can see that there's some sort of burn marks on the bum of her robe. Or whatever, so it's quite
interesting.
I'll have to, attention to detail.
Yeah, I like that. Attention to detail. Good old Martin Campbell. He's good at that. I like it. Good stuff. Yeah. So moving on. Oh my goodness me, Chris! It's Tomorrow Never Dies time. And I suppose we begin at the beginning with some Professor Inga Bergstrom. I've come over all peculiar, Chris. You're going to have to take over with this one.
Okay, so Professor Inga Bergstrom, not in it for long. In all honesty, it is short screen time, but she is a beauty. Cecile, I think she's Danish, isn't she?
I believe so. Yeah.
The actress, but yeah, no, I think it's a cool little scene. It's nice because Bond's in Oxford, to see the surroundings, brushing up on a little Danish, and we get the Moneypenny line about being a cunning linguist and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But which I don't actually know. What does that mean, Tom? Sorry,
I don't know, Chris. I just imagine he's good with languages and stuff. Yeah.
Good with his tongue, I think. Yeah. Good sort of learning language.
I just love how deadpan your face was right now. It's funny. Good. I tell you what, man. Oh, good God. I am very partial to a leggy blonde, Chris. That is a weakness of mine. And Inga Bergstrom is a perfect example of a leggy blonde. And I must admit, I spent a lot of time with the VHS in this scene. You know how they always position the sheets very carefully in the Bond film, so you don't get to see the good stuff. I fancy that you can just see the tip of her buttocks underneath that sheet. And what a fine example of buttocks they are as well, Chris. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we're not going to complain about that at all. So
never.
Brilliant stuff. I do. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? It's a 3-girl setup. You got the girl at the start and so on, where Bond's. It's kind of like it's a good girl at the start that Bond's sort of making out with, and then that's the last you kind of see of her. I think that we had one kind of similar in The World Is Not Enough, didn't we? Yeah. Which we'll go on about. But would you ever want to go back to that sort of formula now? Because I guess it's been a bit different with some of the Craig films, hasn't it?
Yeah, I guess I'd say the more the merrier.
Or do you think that's too old school?
No, I think.
Do you think it's too old school or not?
I think the more the merrier. I reckon. I think that's all good. I suppose like with Skyfall, you had the girl on the beach at the beginning. That was the little sort of early cameo. Then you had Moneypenny, which I guess is sort of like the Bond girl of the piece, even though it's Moneypenny. And then of course you had Severine as well. So yeah, no, I'm up for a 3-way Bond girl-a-thon without a doubt. Aren't we all?
So what are your thoughts on Paris Carver?
Okay. I think this is an unusual one, right? Terry Hatcher. Bit of an unusual casting choice, I think. And I believe that was the sign of things to come that we were going to get with the next film and then even the next film after. She's, New Adventures of Superman, Desperate Housewives, all that kind of stuff. Though I don't even remember when Desperate Housewives started, but I imagine it was soon after, if it wasn't at the time. I don't know. She seems like an unusual choice for a Bond girl, Terry Hatcher. I don't think it was perhaps the best choice in the world, but I do like the character very much so.
Well, there's a lot going for it really, because we haven't since Tracy had a woman who we know that Bond has kind of previously been in love with. And I don't know if he ever said it, but the fact that they'd obviously spent a long time together, enough to know that he sleeps with a gun under his pillow, obviously, and they know what each other drinks, or at least used to drink. They'd obviously shared a lot of time together, and from Bond actually said himself that they did get too close for comfort, or perhaps she got too close for comfort. So does that mean that he was scared away from it, or does that mean that he knew that he could never commit and then he just sort of put an end to it there and then? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think that's probably it. It comes with the territory, doesn't it? Bond just can't settle down, just can't do it. So I think that's probably where that comes from. She slaps him around the face for saying, "I'll be right back," and then he just never goes back. Which is cool. I like that kind of backstory. I think that's great. Again, she's a sort of one of those kept woman kind of characters. Obviously kept by Elliot Carver and all that kind of stuff. I like it. I do like that scene where she comes into the hotel room and there's Bond. He's sitting there swigging shots of vodka, shoulder holster on, open neck, harking back to sort of Dr. No kind of thing, that kind of look. I think Pierce looks wicked in that scene. I think that's really cool. And I'm also appreciative of the little glimpse of suspenders as well when, he disrobes her at the end of that bit. Nice. So I'm good for that. I just think, I don't know, Terry Hatcher, it's not like she's bad. I look at her and be like, that's an unusual choice, I think, as the actor.
I know, I do know what you mean in terms of it being a bit of a strange choice. I think they were, I don't know. It'd be interesting to try and consider who else might have done the role and how, if it would have been done differently or not. Yeah. I still think there is chemistry between them though, and I still think it works. Yeah. And also you get to the point where, her death then obviously has quite an effect on Bond. Yeah. Brosnan's Bond likes to get close to women that have died, doesn't he? And have
he likes to give him a little kiss and a stroke, doesn't he? Bless him.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah, definitely. So that was kind of cool, and obviously that then fed into the whole new story about her sort of already being dead and him being the culprit, which was quite cool. But there we go. Yeah, very nice. Carver. Oh, do you think she's the first Bond girl that Bond has ever been with who's married, that we know is definitely married?
Let's think about that. That's a good point, actually. I'm just sort of scanning through them now. I can't think of any. There's a similar thing with Solitaire, I suppose, but that's obviously a different sort of story. But that's somebody he's literally stolen from another dude. I guess. I suppose you could say the same for Miss Anders. Maybe. But I guess it might be, actually. Let's throw that one out to the listeners. Get involved with that one if you can think of a married woman that Bond has ploughed in the series. So then, with that said, then we should talk some Wai Lin, who's obviously the sort of main Bond girl of this piece. How do you feel about Wai?
I think it's a good choice for sure in terms of, now we've got a proper kick-ass action Bond girl. She's better than Bond at martial arts. She's clever. She's a secret agent as well, the Chinese sort of secret agent, and she's got her sort of gadgets, her tools and stuff like that, just like Bond. But I think it's good. It's really nice to see that, and also the fact that she is sort of the Chinese agent. We've had obviously the Russian girl before with Anya with Triple X. But this is the first time I think we've had the mutual sort of agencies of Russia and Britain working together. Obviously, Elliot Carver was trying to cause that war between them, wasn't he? Sorry, China and Britain is what I meant. Yeah, Russia previously, obviously. Yeah, sorry, China and Britain the first time we've seen that. And Elliot Carver was trying to start the war between them. So I think it's quite a cool character and quite sort of, not ahead of its time, but you know what I mean? In terms of the political side of things, it was quite an intelligent choice, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's your opinion of Wai Lin?
Yeah, I guess it's cool, isn't it? She's kind of like the Chinese Triple X kind of thing, isn't she? Really, that's the comparison. She's got some definite skills that Bond doesn't have. She's good at the old martial arts and all that kind of business. There's that comedy sort of moment, isn't there, when they're back at her little base. And there's all the gadgets and stuff flying around all over the place, and then there's that fight scene, obviously, where she proper kicks ass throughout, which I think is kind of cool. I think it's one of those. I mean, look, this is the Brosnan Bond. We're sort of in that sort of leaning towards, not so much with this one, I would say, but we're definitely leaning towards the sort of comic book-esque Bond. Do you know what I mean? That scene where at the print facility where she's got those kind of cuffs that shoot the grappling hook, and she's walking down the walls and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Giving him a little wave and stuff.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so it's. I mean, it is what it is. I enjoy it. It's cool. And yeah, I think the only thing I would say is I don't really feel that much chemistry between the two of them, between Pierce and Michelle Yeoh. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's just it feels a little bit forced for me, that one.
I think there's a mutual respect there in terms of what they can do in their jobs and their careers and their background. But in terms of an emotional level, I didn't really feel it either myself. Yeah. In all honesty, it was more like almost a friendship more than anything. Yeah. But I mean, there are some cool scenes. Obviously, the bike scene when they're handcuffed together, I think is brilliant. There's obviously the bit where they're sort of breaking into the stealth ship, which is really cool. And then they kind of go their separate ways, don't they? And that's not bad either. And then the end is kind of like almost like a throwback to the classic endings with the Bond girl on the water somewhere, find each other. And I like it because it's good and I know what they're trying to do. I don't think it quite had the feel of the end of Thunderbolt or the end of You Only Live Twice and stuff like that, where he's got the girl and whatever, and you think, man, that's awesome. And it didn't quite have that, I don't think, but I think that's what they were trying to go for, something along those lines. I agree. What you need is a gigantic orange rubber circular lifeboat. That's what you need, and we haven't had that since God knows when. But yeah, it was just a slightly different riff on that, and I suppose that's the last time that's happened, isn't it? You know, we're having that sort of at sea ending, which used to happen to Connery quite a lot, didn't it? It is, yeah. He loved it. He loved a bit of that, yeah. So there we go. Wyland's done in the bag. Any honourable mentions for Tomorrow Never Dies? Again, I guess without going into too many, there's Carver's PR lady in Hamburg. You know, the one who's played by Daphne Deckers, who's there. Oh, she did a nice Playboy thing after the film. Did she? Saucy. She did indeed. But yeah, aside from that, again, there are a few people at the party. If strangely, there's a girl at the party who introduces Bond to Elliot Carver, who I only recently found out has a Bond girl name, and her name is Tamara Steele, and that's a bloody good name, Tamara Steele. I think that could be like a proper, main Bond girl name. It's quite a cool name, but it's literally for a character that says like 2 lines, and it's like it's a bit of a shame. It's quite cool, but like maybe that was Bond. Maybe that was a cutting floor jobby, where she meant to have more or something. I don't know, but interesting, cool stuff. So, what would you say is the best Bond girl moment in this particular movie? I would say, I do like that. When they're in Wayland's headquarters, that sort of bike shop, which is actually the secret sort of gadget place, and she's kicking ass. And there's a good bit where she's sort of runs up the stairs and then hops over the top and slides down and pulls herself up and karate kicks all the other guys to hell, sort of thing, which is really good and showing the sort of different gadgets. And I like that sort of that scene. The bike scene I think is awesome. I guess that's a bit more action than Bond girl scene, but I do like that. And I suppose what else? Maybe, that's probably it, I guess. I like the escape from the newspaper bit is kind of funny, I guess, where she's sort of doing her thing. But I'd say probably the bike chase or the part where she's kicking ass in that sort of old shop thing. While I agree with you, Chris, my vote goes to Inga Bergstrom's bottom in this one. That's going to be my Bond girl moment of the day. Yeah, good. Okay. That is a special moment for me. Am I allowed to change my? Am I allowed to change? You can join me. Yeah, you can join me on that side of the fence for sure. Yeah, definitely. Cool stuff. All right. You take left cheek and I'll take right cheek. I will. That's where we go. The JBR sandwich. Lovely. Lucky Inga. Eh? Ooh. Lucky Inga. So next up we have The World Is Not Enough. Now we've got some. We've got some Bond girls in this one. I'll tell you that right now. Starting off with the Cigar Girl. Now, what do you think of that? She's. I would say she's kind of reminiscent, looks wise, of a Monica Bellucci. That kind of vibe, Very much so, yeah, very much so. She's got that same sort of figure, the dark hair, the sort of sultry, sort of Mediterranean look to her, definitely. I think it's a great little role as well. Again, it's pre-titles. It's not a huge sort of scene, but there's quite a lot to it. First of all, Bond's. I'm sure they're perfectly rounded and all that sort of stuff in the banker's office. But then as soon as the guy gets shot and then she runs away, and then there's that big whole thing which eventually leads into the boat chase. She obviously has this big Sunseeker boat, and she's trying to kill Bond in his Q boat, and that's a great. I mean, that chase is awesome, and she's great in that. It obviously eventually ends up on the hot air balloon, and Bond's like saying, "Oh, I can protect you," and she's like, "Not from him," and then no, don't shoot it, and then obviously she shoots a balloon, and then so it's a really memorable way to go as well. So for the short screen time, I think it was great. Yeah, I really liked it. What about you?
Yeah, I think that boat chase for sure in The World Is Not Enough is as we've said before, is like an iconic sequence in the whole series of Bond, and the fact that she's in it means she gets some serious points on that score. It's one of those things. She's only there for a few minutes, and then at the end of that climax of that chase, she's gone. But she's definitely got that sort of, she looks like a Bond girl, doesn't she? If she wasn't a Bond girl, you would look at her and go, she looks like a Bond girl. And she's definitely got that vibe.
Certainly.
Absolutely. Good shout on the Cigar Girl.
No. Yeah, I don't know. No, she's obviously known in the credits as Cigar Girl, but I'm sure I read somewhere that she had a name as well, which was Giulietta da Vinci, apparently.
Wonder if she was related to Leonardo.
Maybe.
Yeah. So next up, we've got Dr. Molly Warmflash, which is a name and a half. And how do you feel about Molly?
Now, I think she's kind of cool. Again, it's a bit like the version of Caroline, isn't she? Where she's not she's not like your Xenia on the top or your Natalya. She's working for MI6, so it's a bit more down to earth type woman. Yeah. But I really like the whole thing with her and Brosnan's Bond. Obviously, he comes back injured, and she's like telling him he can't do this, that, or the other, and then he sort of says they should skirt the issue and end up getting his own way by being rather naughty, shall we say? But no, I think she's cool. I think she's a good little character. What about you?
Yeah,
what a name as well.
Yeah,
Fantastic
Molly Warmflash. Name. That is a good name. I feel that's proper old school Bond girl name, isn't it? That's like Pussy Galore territory. But I do like that scene where they've got the big hologram of Renard's head, and they're kind of just exploring it, and then she comes in and she's talking, and there's that little moment where sort of Bond sort of takes his finger out of Renard's eyeball and just sort of looks awkward. I think which is cool. I like that little little interplay, which is nice. But yeah, Molly Warmflash, good stuff.
And I like the whole bit where Moneypenny notes that Bond has exceptional stamina.
Yes, that was a nice little touch as well. Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Next up, Chris. Oh my goodness me! It's one of my all-time favourites. It's Elektra King. Oh my goodness! I don't even know where to begin with Elektra King. Oh, yeah. You start, man, because I don't even know where to begin or where to end, for that matter.
Well, I don't know. All I know is that her character is unique in terms of so here's someone that we think is initially she's like the trapped woman, the domino, the Miss Anders, that sort of woman to a certain extent. Obviously not quite that way, but we hear that she's been kidnapped by Renard, and Bond thinks she is the damsel in distress, and he ends up sort of falling for her, and then that's that massive twist. Obviously, she ends up being the only sort of female to date who's played like the main villain, and obviously Renard is more the henchman underneath her to a certain extent. But what I love about Elektra King is that if I was Bond, there's no way I wouldn't be able to give in to her sort of seductions. Yeah, like you just how could you like be professional enough to like just turn a blind eye or whatever? You couldn't. Obviously Bond sort of didn't initially, but then when he found out she was sort of a villainess, it was a bit trickier. But I mean, she's just so hot and plays the character so well as well, doesn't she?
Yeah, she is quite the temptress, isn't she? And there is just no way you could resist that. Good God Almighty, good Lord above, that is a beautiful woman. And that sort of red dress she kind of wears on like the poster and in those scenes, that for me is just like that is mouth-wateringly unbelievable. Elektra King, good God, yeah, that's a woman. And again, she's one of those who's so beautiful. Like, you would look at her if she'd never been a Bond girl, and you'd be like, she's got to be a Bond girl at some point, because she's just next level beautiful. You get beautiful ladies, right, which is great. Big fan of those. Yeah. But then you get next level beautiful ones who are just so beautiful that you can't even get your head around it sometimes. Oh, I'm going to have a lie down, get the ice cubes out, Chris.
You're hot and flustered, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah, good God.
So, what do you think about the whole, the sort of big twist that we haven't really had before in a Bond film? The fact that she is sort of the main villainess, the one and only to date that we know of. There's a lot to be said for that, I think, in terms of, again, it's quite a brave idea because it hadn't been done before. And for me, The World Is Not Enough. Sometimes I think it's not a bad film. Sometimes it depends on what mood I'm in. But the highlight of the film, aside from obviously the wicked pre-titles, is Elektra King. I think every time she's on the screen, you can't take your eyes off it. She owns the screen when she's on it.
Would you say her performance is electrifying? Sorry, I had to do that. Go on, carry on.
Well, yeah, I was just sort of saying, I think she's brilliant in the role, and I love the way that it turns. Obviously, she's quite manipulative, and when she's got the ice, you know that she's almost a bit like Largo, except she's sort of doing it for pleasure rather than pain, I guess. And I love that bit of obviously where they get towards at the end where Bond goes running up the stairs and she's there and she thinks, this is it. I've my plan's working. The sub's going down. You can't stop me. Bond's got the gun on her. You wouldn't shoot me.
Yeah.
What a scene that is.
That is a brilliant scene. That whole thing, you're right. We've had Bond girls quite often who are villains to begin with, who then turn to the good side once they've had a little taste of bondage. But this is the only time I can think of where it's gone the other way around. So she is definitely a Bond girl of note for that reason alone. But I do like that whole thing. Like, she's not just some random girl. She's got this whole backstory, the whole Stockholm syndrome thing. That whole thing is really great. Like that thing with the bit of her ear just that's been kind of ripped off is like, that's gross, but the way they handle that is cool with that like weird earring thing that she wears to cover it up. I think the whole thing is brilliant, and culminating in that moment where Brosnan shoots her point blank range in the face. That's a really dark moment, man. For like a series of Bond films that are sort of generally speaking more lighthearted, definitely more lighthearted than the Tims and the Daniels. That is a really dark moment. That's really memorable, and that's for me is like the equivalent of Roger kicking the car off the top in For Your Eyes Only. That, do you know what I mean? That's like a moment of like, whoa, I didn't see that happening. I didn't see that coming. I think that's a brilliant moment. Yeah,
and I'm really glad they did it as well because it just brings that film to the next level, doesn't it? And with her character, you've just had her basically with Bond strapped to a chair. She's just about to break his neck while basically straddling him. And,
that's another
she
way I'd be happy to go that way.
It. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would do, wouldn't you? Elektra King all over you. But and that's a great bit. And obviously Brosnan does his pain face as the screw is being turned, which is good. And there's also the nice sort of link to MI6 with the backstory, obviously, about a dad who went to Oxford with M, I think it was, and she obviously set off the bomb that killed him through that little lapel pin. So I think there are some really good bits to The World Is Not Enough, and I think most of it relate back to Elektra King. So yeah, big thumbs up.
Yeah, absolutely, real solid character. Elektra, we salute you big time. And if you're ever in the market for a James Bond radio sandwich, give us a call. We'll happily provide that service without a doubt. Oof.
Free of charge.
So, we'll even do it a freebie for you. Now, moving on, Chris, it's time for Dr. Christmas Jones. Now, here are my thoughts on Dr. Christmas Jones.
Okay.
I fucking love that joke at the end of the film. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people say, oh, the only reason she's called Christmas is so they can do that joke. I don't care. I love that joke. I think it's brilliant. Not only does it show what a rad man Bond is in the sack, it's also very funny. Makes me laugh. I laughed out loud in the cinema when I saw it. And all that stuff. I think it's brilliant. And if that is the case, that they just called her Christmas so they could back that joke out, I'm totally at peace with that. I say bring it on. Good stuff. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'd much prefer having her being called Christmas and doing it that way round than Mr. Kill being called Mr. Kill, just so they can use, that's a name to die for. I mean, that's beyond the scope. Anyway, we're not going to go there today.
Let's not do that.
But yeah, no, I think the character name, I think that whole joke, I'm the same as you. I think it's great. I think it's all right. It's cheesy as hell, but who cares? It's another, I think they're attempting re-entry, Sarah,
exactly
isn't it? Almost?
That,
It's that sort of level, and you got to love it. You got to go with it, and that's what it is. But I think now a lot of people obviously have a problem with Denise Richards as well, in terms of, okay, she's playing a nuclear physicist. Obviously, Denise Richards sometimes comes across as a bit of a bimbo, some people might say, or along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't knock how good she looks, because she looks amazing. Very much Lara Croft type look. When they're in the nuclear bunker, obviously, I think that was done on purpose. And in the sunken submarine, when she gets a little wet, shall we say, is quite a nice thing as well. We're just rattling off all these fucking sort of scenes. But no, I think like it would have been interesting to see, perhaps. I don't know. Would you have wanted someone else to act out that part, or are you happy with how it went? Yeah,
I think she's another one of those. Like I said with Terry Hatcher. Terry Hatcher was like, a sort of, she was at the pinnacle of her career in the 90s. It was almost like in this period they were like, right, let's scan through the FHM top 10 hot girls and then just choose that one. And I feel like
it's exactly how it feels.
Yeah, and I feel like Terry Hatcher doesn't come across as classy enough as Paris Carver. I feel like they should have had some like unknown, Austrian actress or something like that just was like a bit of exoticness to her. And I feel like that was just like an odd, easy sort of choice for 1997. Denise Richards, much the same thing. There was the whole Wild Things movie, which I must admit I'm a very big fan of. I do like one scene in particular, bring that on. And I think that follows that same sort of logic. Who's the current hot girl that everybody's into? Right, let's get her involved. She doesn't really get across the nuclear scientist angle well. You can take, Natalya, and you can take somebody who's drop dead gorgeous, and you can make her fit that role, and she does a bloody good job at that. Computer scientist or whatever she is, like she carries that off perfectly, even despite being a beautiful woman. Denise, not so much.
No, yeah, it's a bit of a shame. So, what do you think about her relationship with Bond? Because there's that whole bit where at the start she's like, are you here to work, or are you just here for a glimmer, or whatever it is? She's a bit sort of offhanded. Then the nuclear bunker sort of gets raided, and then they get onto that bit where she's like, "What? So who are you?" sort of thing, and he's like, "Bond," and then they shoot up that jet thrust thing.
Do you know what I've got to say? That's my least favourite James Bond moment in the entire series. That one, that really,
It's just so cheesily done, isn't it? But not in a good cheese way, in a bad cheese way.
And the thing as well with that as well, I adore Pierce. He's one of my favourite Bonds. But he has the American twang when he delivers that line as well, doesn't he? He's like, Bond, James Bond, when he gets to the top, and I'm like,
it is,
no.
It is a little bit. No.
But, that's the direction the series was heading in at the time, So, she's not great, bless her heart. You probably could have done with a different actress. If you'd have had Elektra King playing, Sophie Marceau playing Christmas Jones, you could see that working. Do you know what I mean? But she's too perfect as Elektra, so you wouldn't want to do that. But do you know what I'm saying? You need somebody like that who could carry it off.
Yeah.
I don't think Denise did a good job. What do you think?
Yeah. No. Well, it's hard because you don't want to sound like you're knocking someone, but certain people are more suited to certain roles, I guess. And I think, you'd need a certain type of class maybe to pull off a certain role like that, perhaps. Yeah. And again, I think she did all right. There are certain scenes where they've just come out of the pipe after it blew up, and there's a little bit of dialogue between them, and that works quite well. But it's overall, I think it is definitely not as effective as Elektra King anyway. Or in comparisons to sort of Natalya.
Again, I suppose you got to take that into account when you have somebody as amazing as Sophie Marceau as Elektra King. It's going to be hard to match up to that. In whatever way.
But she does look stunning.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chris, I'm just going to put this out there. I certainly wouldn't say no. Certainly wouldn't say no. But in this context, that's that. Those are my thoughts. Any honourable mentions for The World Is Not Enough?
Not really. I mean, there's a couple. There's Nina and Verushka, obviously, who are pretty much
Verushka.
Who basically enjoy eating caviar and receiving money to do it off Zukovsky's knee, which is interesting. But that's about it, really. I mean, again,
there we go.
Not too many.
So, what is your vote for best Bond girl moment in The World Is Not Enough?
Well, it's got to be really the two end scenes with Elektra King. The one when she's straddling him and pulling and turning the screw in the torture chair, and the one where he shoots her. I think those two scenes are brilliant, and I think Elektra King's awesome in it. I'd say, those would be my two favourites.
So I've also got two. Number one is in no certain order. And number one would be shooting Elektra point blank range. Definitely. That's a very memorable moment. And number two, I just love Christmas Comes Once a Year. Do you know what I mean? I think that's such a brilliant way to end the film. And extra saucy as well, because it's like, there was a lot of innuendo in the Roger movies, a lot of innuendo in most of them, but like that's the most overt dirty joke in the whole series, I reckon, that one.
But what I don't get is he says Christmas only comes once a year. But it does only come once a year, doesn't it? It's like December the 25th.
What we're going to have to do, Chris, after we by no means can we call JBR a family show, but what we'll do is after we finish recording, we'll have a little chat and I'll explain some things to you, man, and then that'll probably clear that one up for you. Okay, so moving swiftly on, it's time for Casino Royale, isn't it, Chris?
Oh, Casino Royale. Yes, it is indeed. Now, who are we going to talk about first? Because we totally skipped your favourite film.
Damn it, you've noticed. Shit. Right. Okay. Do we really have to do this?
We start? Man, there are some positives here.
Are there?
Are there? You sounded so bad. Well, there's one beginning with V, and I think you'll love that.
You're going to just have to lead the way on this.
Save her for later.
Go on, you start.
Okay, I'll tell you where we'll start. We'll start with Miranda Frost. Okay, now Rosamund Pike, absolutely stunning. I love the whole posh bird type angle. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Really rocks it well. You definitely wouldn't kick her out of bed if you were in a nice palace and she was there to keep you warm.
No.
I guess when I remember when I watched this, and there was that whole, again, they tried to do the twist. This time, she was like the goody sort of MI6 agent who suddenly works for the baddie, and suddenly obviously works for Colonel Moon. And I remember seeing that happening before I saw it happen, if you know what I mean, in terms of it was almost a bit too obvious, perhaps. But it's still all right. There's a whole backstory of how you're loving this, aren't you? I can tell, man. You're like, what?
Go on, carry on.
There's a whole backstory. Do you remember her backstory? How she was, she won the Olympic gold medal because they forced the opponent to overdose and stuff like that, which is quite interesting. But obviously, we know she's good at fencing and that sort of stuff. Good with her sword and her blade. Looks stunning. MI6 agent who was put there by Moon or Gustav Graves, and so there's a couple of positives. Do you think or not?
My thoughts are I agree with two things that you've said there. Number one, I do like the posh bird angle, as you so eloquently put it. Absolutely. I'm very partial to a Bosch bird. The only other positive I can find out of this is the scene at the end on the plane where she's in a little fencing outfit. That I find that pleasing. Other than that, not really. You know, that's all I can find out of this film so far.
Right. Okay. Well, I have to agree that sort of scene, the her against Jinx when they're sort of battling with the swords and the girl on girl, which is what we like. That is a good scene.
Full supportive of that, without a doubt.
I can tell how you're not wanting to spend a lot of time on this one, so we'll move swiftly on, and we'll move on to your favourite Bond girl, Jinx Johnson. Now, what do you think of Jacinta? Jinx?
She's shit, to be quite honest with you, Chris.
Right.
I don't even know where to begin. I love James Bond so much. I'm not, I'm sure you're aware of that. I love it so much, and it pains me. It really pains me when I have to say anything bad about it. It really hurts me physically and emotionally, and it all builds up into this one film that I struggle to find anything positive about whatsoever. I just can't. I don't even know what to say. I just don't even know what to say. That thing where she goes, "Yo, mama, shut up." That's just a rubbish joke. Do you know what I mean? Just stop it. Just stop it. That scene where she jumps off the top of the wall and it's rubbish. Don't do that. It's shit. That bit where she comes out of the water, stop it. That's bollocks. Honey Rider did it so much better than you. And it's just bollocks. There's no other way. Yeah. Sorry, man.
This is like a nice little precursor to the Die Another Day review.
I don't even know if we can do that episode because it's just going to be me shouting at you for 5 hours.
Probably. Okay, so let's think about it. Jinx, have we got any positives? Okay, we mentioned the fight, the girl on girl fight at the end. Great. I think that's good. Again, that line, bloody awful. Hate it. Okay, so what about the bit when they go to the island, where the sort of plastic surgery and stuff is taking place, and she sort of goes to see the doctor and then shoots him, and then she's running away. She sees Bond sort of gets out his way, she gets out her way prior to the actual jump, which of course is a pile of crap. That whole part isn't too bad, perhaps, maybe not. It is difficult, isn't it? What about the end scene where she's got all the diamonds on her belly and they're
that's something else I have to talk about that I'm very passionate about.
Right.
That whole thing of falling out of the back of a plane in a helicopter and then starting it up halfway down and landing at the last minute. Don't even get me started on that. What I really have a problem with, Chris, is that end scene where he's twiddling all the diamonds on her belly and all that shit. But prior to that, I don't want to see James Bond ejaculate, Chris. That's something I don't want to see. No, I'm not into that. I don't want to have a look at that.
Okay. You don't like,
and we get to see that. We get to see Bond's cum face, and I'm not. That makes me feel very uncomfortable. That's like me watching you do that, and I wouldn't. No offense, Chris. I'm sure it's very beautiful,
right,
but it's not. It's not something I really want to see.
Oh, well, I've been told a couple of times. But there we go. Now, what we want to know is Bond's cum face the same as his pain face? Now, what would you think about that?
Again, I would have to revisit this film, which is something I really don't want to have to do. I haven't seen this film in 10 years, 11 years, maybe. I think it might have even been since 2002. I think it would have come out at the end of 2002, and then I'd have watched it one more time after that. So whenever that was, I don't know. I'd have to reinvestigate that face, and it's something I really don't want to do. So I'm going to have to leave that up to you, Chris, to get to the bottom of that particular one.
All right. You know what? I think you're going to see this film with a fresh pair of eyes when you watch it, and you're going to be like, man, this isn't as bad as I first thought.
I don't know. I would hope I watch it and it's like, do you know what? It wasn't as bad as I remember. But the more I think about it, man, the more venom I have for it, and that pains me to say it because I love Bond so much. I love the whole series. I love it all, but this one I have a serious problem with. Yeah.
Shall we move on then to your second best Bond girl in the entire series?
Yeah, go on then.
Her name is Verity.
Verity, Chris.
A fencing instructor. Yes.
Verity can.
Now, what do you want to tell me about Verity?
Verity is my number one point of evil in this film. Verity can fuck off as far as I'm concerned. I hate Verity. I hate her so much. Because I tell you what, not only is she rubbish in this film, that whole thing of like tighten up my outfit or whatever she says just irritates me. It's out of place. It's just plain wrong. And Madonna pisses me off anyway. That theme song she did was so awful and offends my ears even to this very day. And the fact that she was like obnoxious enough to insist on appearing in the film as well makes it even worse. I hate Verity with such a burning passion. I wouldn't piss on her if she was on fire, Chris.
So do you like her line, keeping the tip up then?
No, I don't. I don't even remember that line, actually. That's how much I've blocked it from my memories.
Really? Okay. But yeah, so there's Verity. Done and dusted.
There she is. Have you got anything to say about her?
I don't know. You kind of hit all the marks, really. I guess it's it's a bit like. Have you seen Inglourious Bastards? Have you seen? Sorry, what's the one after that? Obviously, Jamie Foxx one.
Oh, Django Unchained.
Yes. Now that film, bloody amazing. I think it's fan-bloody-tastic. But there's one little segment where it's ruined by a silly cameo from Quentin Tarantino, and it ruins that little section.
Yeah. And
I feel the Verity placement is on a very similar scale to that. It's just it takes you out of the film, doesn't it? Yeah. Imagine, put it this way, Die Another Day, it almost doesn't matter because the film is a stinking horse manure. But imagine if we had Casino Royale, right? And there was a scene in that where suddenly Madonna's playing at the poker table.
I can't think of anything more off-putting than that. I can't. Even the concept of it disgusts me on a very primal, deep down level. Yeah, that's the thing. Is Madonna has no place being in a Bond film, no place whatsoever being in a Bond film. Let's look back through the entire series. Has there been an equivalent of a Madonna showing up in a Bond film? No, she has no place whatsoever in this, and all she's going to do is pull you out of the film, which in hindsight might not actually be altogether a bad thing in retrospect, but. Yeah, just that. Yeah, no, not for me, man. Not for me at all. Not my cup of tea. Okay,
not your cup of tea. There we go. So we got honourable mentions. Peaceful Fountains of Desire. Do you remember who that is?
Now I will. Yes, I'm fully supportive of Peaceful Fountains of Desire. Actually, very, very attractive young lady. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm happy with that one.
She was indeed. It's quite a nice little scene. So there we go. That's quite cool. And the only other one is the air hostess on the plane, who happened to be Deborah Moore, Roger's daughter.
There we go. Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to salute Deborah Moore. Yeah, good stuff. Excellent air hostessing. I'm going to have to ask you, Chris, what is the best Bond girl moment in this film?
Well, I think they're all good, really. So many good bits, you can't really pick one. Probably the Madonna scene and the dialogue scene between Jinx and Bond when she comes out to sea. I love that so much.
I'm just here for the birds.
It's my clear favourite. Oh my god! Wow, that's a mouthful. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna say bedding Miranda Frost.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
In the Ice Palace, and the girl on girl sort of battle with the sword on the plane. Between those, I'd say they're the only two things I would sort of remotely.
The only possible thing I could say about this is Miranda Frost in her fencing outfit at the end on the plane. That's all I can get out of this film. That's it for me. Now, look, be honest with me, Chris, right?
Right.
If there are things you like about this film, go ahead and say it. And I will, if there are genuine positives that you can find, I will try my best to keep quiet. So, go on. Is there anything?
Well, no, we're going to wait for the review, man. Let's not spoil the show now.
All right.
The review will be around the corner in a few months' time. It means that you'll have to watch it.
Oh God!
I'll have to watch it, and then it'll be fresh, and then we can. Do you know what? I'm actually gonna probably watch it with you, so I know for 100% that you've actually watched the whole film and you haven't fast forwarded it, or just watched a trailer and then pretended you watched it. I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna sit down with you, and I'm gonna make sure that we watch that film together.
Do you know what? I feel like what could, ironically, what might actually be the most downloaded episode of James Bond Radio will probably be the Die Another Day review. Oh man. Do you know what else? There was those pictures, wasn't there, recently that was released, all on green screen with Bond hanging off the landing gear of a plane. And do you know what, man? Oh God, that was going to be his entrance into London or wherever he was. And there's shots of Brosnan hanging off the bottom, and it was basically green screen everywhere, and then this big old wheel hanging down and the little bit of a bottom of the fuselage of the plane, and there he is, perfectly suited and booted, hanging onto this wheel, like with his the eyebrow raised, like. And they were going to do that. They were going to have his entrance into. He was going to climb through the landing gear of the plane. Why he would do that, God only knows.
Yeah, on a normal flight, it's like, what's that about? That's Tamahori, isn't it?
Yeah. I haven't got a good word to say about that fella. Right. No. Now, the one thing I can be grateful for of this film is the fact that, all respect to Eon Productions, Barbara and Michael and everybody else, all respect to them. I love what you do. I love it. I worship it. And the only thing, and it pains me to say bad things about Bond when it does come up with this particular film, but what I do feel is that I am grateful for this film because they saw that and they could have easily gone, right, well, that was, I think that even made the most money out of all of Pierce's. Let's make another one of those. Do you know what I mean? That's what the people want. They could have done that, but they stopped. They made the most risky decision they possibly could have made. They got rid of a bankable star. Pierce was money in the bank already. They could have done that next Bond film without giving it a moment's more thought. They stopped. They reevaluated. They saw what had happened, and they were like, we cannot continue down this line. And they refreshed the whole thing with what could possibly be, depending on what day you ask me, the greatest Bond film of all time, that at the moment for me is a millimetre behind Majesty's. So with all of the above said, I am thankful to Die Another Day for that service it provided.
I could see how painful you were to see that. I just had a funny image. Obviously Bond, the world is not enough. He's on that chair being with a torture screw. Now, if there was such a chair where you would sit on it, it would be the same contraption with the thing around your neck and the screw, that thing being pushed into the back. But it wasn't someone else that was turning it, it was you. Maybe like there's a handle by your side that you could like turn. Yeah. And you were watching Die Another Day in front of you, but you had the choice to watch it or to turn that screw. What would you do?
I think, okay, so first things first, that is probably the only way you're going to get me to watch this film is to literally tie me down and put matchsticks on my eyes.
Right. Okay.
I think there is definitely a case to be said of breaking my own spine rather than watching this film. I think there is a case for that, Chris, as extreme as that might be. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, moving on then.
Yeah.
Casino Royale.
Swiftly. Yeah. Oh, relief.
Okay. So, Casino Royale. So, lots and lots of lovely ladies in Casino Royale. Where should we start?
I guess we should start with Solange. She's the Bond girl. Obviously, we see first of all. She's the one who's ill-fated, sadly, and I think she's great. I think she's one of those that's a very exotic-looking beauty, stunning looking. That dress when Bond's playing cards in the Bahamas club, she nice. Rocks that dress. Good gracious. And she's very good. And I have it on good authority, actually. A friend of mine met her, Mr. Jason King, if you're listening. He met her and took a photo with her with a very rude smirk on his face just to piss me off because he knew how it would make me feel. And he said not only was she beautiful, she was actually really fun and down to earth and lovely as well, which for me makes her rank even higher. I know we're talking about the character rather than the actor, but makes it even better for me when you hear that kind of story.
Do you want you want to know something else that makes her even higher?
Go on.
So basically, you know the scene where we first see her, brilliant scene, riding that white horse along the beach.
Yeah.
She was basically offered a body double to do it because, you know, some actresses are a bit conscious and they want to think. And she's like, no, I'm going to do it myself. And, you know, you got to be pleased with that. If someone's got, you know, can pull it off and they don't need a body double, then that's got to be a good thing.
Good on you. We salute you, Solange. Good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Too right. Excellent stuff. So, like, again, the character itself, it's not in for a huge amount of screen time, but there's some good scenes in there. Obviously, the scene where he first sort of sees her, the scene, like you mentioned, when they're sort of just before he plays cards against Demetrios and obviously wins the Aston Martin. That dress, fucking hell, she looks so nice in that. And then, like, not long after that, you've got the bit where he sort of picks her up in the car. I love that scene. It's so good. Yeah. He picks her up in the car outside the Ocean Club and says, let's go to my place. Is it far? Oh, is it close? Very. And then she gets in and like literally burns around, obviously comes back around and then like gets out again. And such a cool little moment that I love it.
Dude, when I went to visit the Ocean Club, I as soon as like that roundabout is like the entrance to the whole place. And I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was just like the entrance to that room or whatever. And then so I'm basically on this little minibus thing taking us there. And the moment it goes around, it's like a little lane with trees on either side. And the minute it kind of opens out into that, and it's like it is that scene, I was just started giggling like a girl and just getting really super excited. So Solange is like she's one of those kept women. She's found herself in the arms of, you know, a nasty bastard in Demetrios. She's a bit of a naughty one, you know. She beds Bond and stuff. And she has that line, doesn't she, where she says, you know, there was so many chances for happiness, so many nice guys, and I always end up with kind of guys like you, kind of thing, and how, you know, they're much more interesting and all that kind of stuff. Which I think is cool.
It's a good line.
Yeah. So that is, and I think she's a cool character. Yeah, she's almost like a classic old school kept woman Bond girl, I reckon, Solange.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think so too. But for the modern day type thing, and I do like the Bond Solange chemistry. I think that's really good. Obviously, it doesn't go really deep because obviously we get that later on with Vesper. But I think it's good. I think it works well. And there's that bit where they're on the floor and you know, there's basically Bond's playing off her on you know what they're going to be doing and stuff like that. And orders the champagne for two. Is it for one? Isn't it? And then he leaves once he's gotten the information about Demetrios. But I really like that. And then obviously later on we find out that she was she drowned or something, or obviously
she's like wrapped up in that hammock, isn't she? She looks like she's been
like that, don't they? Yeah, drowned or something. But yeah, I think a good character and and look great riding on a horse.
Absolutely. So next up, we've got Vesper Lynd. Now, this is important, isn't it? Because Vesper Lynd is a classic Ian Fleming Bond girl character, and we haven't had one of those in years before leading up to this point. And of course, we still haven't had one since. So extra marks to Vesper straight out of the gate, because, you know, remember in the days when they didn't own the rights to Casino Royale, and she was like the Bond girl that got away, that we were never going to see on the big screen, and then finally here she is, and brilliantly portrayed as well. Now, what's the girl? There was apparently the one who missed out, Eva Green. She was in Cowboys and Aliens with Daniel Craig. Olivia, somebody, is it?
Oh, Olivia Wilde.
Olivia Wilde. Apparently, she was she was like she narrowly missed out to Eva Green for the role of Vesper. Don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard.
Oh, that's interesting.
But
that's interesting. She's a stunner as well, man.
Yeah. But I think what I like about Vesper is they went with an actress who again has that sort of haunted, exotic beauty. She's not, you know, your average Baywatch bimbo kind of style. She's, you know, she's got those very dark eyes, and she's like an intelligent beauty, I would say. And I think I love it when you see a Bond girl who gives as good as she gets with Bond, and she definitely does that. I think she's fucking brilliant. What do you think?
I'm a huge, massive fan of Vesper. One of the, got to be probably for me in the top 5 Bond girl category. I think she's just offers so much. That scene, I absolutely flipping love that scene when they first meet on the train. The dialogue is so good, and the way that they sort of bounce off one another, Bond and Vesper, is brilliant when they talk about how's your lamb skewered, and you're perfectly formed arse, or you notice sort of thing, and all this sort of stuff. Aside from the watch comment, it's one of the best sort of written scenes. I think it's amazing. I love it, and I love the fact that there's sort of she's weary of Bond. She thinks he's like a cavalier who's sort of not very sensible in terms of money or his actions or this, that and the other. She doesn't know why she has to give him all this money. She doesn't believe it's the right thing to do. That whole thing where he says, "Oh, you're Miss Stephanie Broadchest," and she's like, "What?" She absolutely hates that. But I think it's great. And then they go to your hotel, your stomping ground, and there's some great scenes there as well. Yeah. I think the character is one of the most well-rounded Bond characters in the whole series. I think Eva Green, who plays her, is absolutely amazing and absolutely stunning as well. That dress that she wears during the casino scenes is just like cleavage happy, beyond belief, isn't it? And obviously you got the twist later on as well. Yeah,
I would say my vote for formidable cleavage does go to Triple X at the end of Spy, but this is a very close second, Chris. I mean, well, maybe even joint second with Solitaire. I don't know. I'm not sure, but that's some pretty formidable shit. Yeah, and I mean, you got to say she's a totally stand-up character as well. She's the money. She's got a lot of responsibility. She's obviously very good at a job and all that kind of stuff. And there's that wicked scene outside when after Bond's been cleaned out and he asks her for more money and she says no, where she proper stands her ground. You know what I mean? She doesn't immediately cave in and be like, all right then. She's like, she refuses. And obviously
he's gripping her arm tightly. Isn't he? He's like being quite forceful about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, if this was Connery or possibly even Early Moore, she'd have probably got a slap around the face, wouldn't she? But it's kind of good. Obviously, that's not a good thing, but like to see the modern version of Bond, like just that little glimmer of that old nasty sort of sexist kind of Bond who would be happy to slap a woman around, Like, obviously that's a bad thing, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's just a little glimmer of that old school character, that old Fleming character that we would have seen,
And she always refers to his ego, and it's true though. He has got a bit of an ego. He thinks he is the best card player in the room. Obviously he's proved wrong initially, and she doesn't want to give him the money, and obviously she doesn't in the end. He gets it from Felix, doesn't he? But there's that whole bit obviously where he then gets poisoned and he's in the car, and she basically saves his life. So she obviously sees him there and manages to sort of start up the heart sort of, what do you call it?
The defibrillator?
Defibrillator, that's the one. And obviously saves Bond life. And then after he goes back, obviously he cleans out Le Chiffre, he makes it. But then she gets kidnapped, and then, she's on the road and he's in the... I love that bit where he's driving the DBS towards it. It's so fucking cool. He obviously spins the car to avoid killing her, and ultimately gets taken to obviously where Le Chiffre has a quick go on him, and he can hear that Vesper's getting tortured, and it's like, he knows he's not... He'd never say anything, even though he really likes it. That's that's his job.
And Le Chiffre is just about to cut off his cock and balls, isn't he? At the end there, he's like, "I'm going to remove what you seem not to value," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And like, if it wasn't for Mr. White coming in and saving the day at the very last minute, that would have been Bond having his cock and balls sliced off.
He would have been a eunuch, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Bond the eunuch.
How would that change the series? I wonder. That would have taken things in a different direction.
Yeah, I guess you would have been more Morris dancing than before. Maybe little less of the lady love.
Because that's difficult, isn't it, man? I imagine as men we really value our genitals, don't we? Do you know what I mean? It's like something that you it's like a reliable friend that's with you throughout life, and to even think about going through life without a penis or even the testicles is, I don't even know how I would exist as a human being anymore after that. Yeah, good old Mr. White, as nasty as he is, he did save the day for us there.
He did. Thankfully so.
Yeah.
And then obviously after that, then we've got the great scene where when they go to Bond is sort of recuperating in by the lake, I think it is, isn't he? And then Vesper comes to see him, and they basically get that mutual bond for each other, and you can see their love grow. It's a bit like, it's not really, but the sort of montage love bit in Majesties. It's got echoes of that without being quite that intense sort of thing. But there's whole the little dialogue about his little finger and all that, and they're obviously getting on really well. And and then they go to Venice, don't they? And it looks like everything's happy. He's quit the service, and they're just gonna go around the world, and he doesn't know what an honest job is. So they'll just see what happens, and then shit goes down again, doesn't it?
Do you know what I like? What's happened here, right? You can tell when we get on a thread of something that we really proper love about Bond, because here we are, we're discussing the Bond girls, and we've segued into just talking about Casino Royale scene by scene, haven't we? Do you know what I mean? We've just lost ourselves in that and completely forgotten that we're just talking about Vesper at this point. And I love that.
Sorry, JB,
brilliant. No, that's fine. I completely support it, but it's funny how that happens. It does make me laugh. Yeah. But I think Vesper is brilliant. I think she's a classic Bond girl for me. Like there's Tracy is such a brilliant character. Vesper is again like millimeters behind Tracy, I would say. Even though there's the betrayal thing, definitely. I think that scene where she drowns at the end is heartbreaking, and that moment when you see her underwater and she lets out that last bit of air and there's that look on her face, it's horrible to look at. It's so nasty. And then there's that, obviously the bit where he's trying to resuscitate her on the roof, and just like that panic in his face, man. Oh, dude, like that is such. Yeah, that's tough, man. That is really tough. Yeah.
But it's great as well. In like you said, it's almost that bit underwater. You're right. It's like you can almost see the water going down her throat, how she's almost choking, kind of. And he's trying his hardest to squeeze his arm through the gate and through the lift door and stuff, and can't quite reach her. And by this point, they've obviously confessed their love for each other and stuff like that. And this is a woman who he has finally fallen in love with. And she's betrayed him, and he doesn't know why. He's confused, he's angry, and then she dies in front of him, and it's like, but I mean, fantastic, great, and it's so good that the way it was portrayed, I think was brilliant. Yeah. And for me, Vesper easily top 5 Bond girl, maybe top 3. Yeah. One of the best things in the whole series,
definitely, without a doubt. Any honourable mentions?
We've got a couple. So we've got Valenka, who is Le Chiffre's sort of kept woman.
I guess more, not even an honourable mention. She deserves a full mention, doesn't she, of Valenka?
Yeah. No, I think she does probably, Valenka, because I mean, obviously she's a hottie as well. When she's around the poker tables wearing some nice stuff, and she's the one that delivers. Is she the one that delivers?
She is. She poisons the drink. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
The digital. So she has a role to play there. I think that she's important, because that scene in Le Chiffre's suite where she kind of lures him back up when the dudes are waiting on the balcony for him. And there's that moment where he's like, "Give me your arm, my beauty," and like he's going to chop her arm off. And like that is so important, because it's like that sums up Le Chiffre. Like he's just going to let that happen. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to. He just says, he's like not even one word of protest or whatever it is he says. So I think that's like a key thing to kind of get across who Le Chiffre is, kind of thing. Just totally out for himself. And absolutely stunningly beautiful as well.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. Yeah, so there's a couple of other honourable mentions. I think the Ocean Club receptionist definitely deserves one, because I think she's super cute.
Good God,
super cute.
Yeah.
I love it, just the way that Bond goes up to her and he's talking about the Aston Martin. I might nick the door, and she's mentioning Demetrios, but she's just that sort of girl where if you met her in real life, you go, oh, she'd be good girlfriend material type thing.
Got a bit of a flirty sort of little wink to her kind of thing, absolutely. And not that you ever see her standing up, but she's probably another leggy blonde that would be right up my street, definitely. Yeah, bring it on. Yeah,
I'd imagine so. Yeah. Great stuff. I also would say you got to mention, obviously, Madame Wu. Obviously, card player at the poker table. Now, she is played by Sei Lin, I think her name is. Is it Sei Lin?
Sai Chin, like I think, isn't it?
Sai Chin, sorry, I beg your pardon. Sei Lin, what am I talking about? Yeah, I'm getting confused with all of them. Yes, Sai Chin, who is obviously the same actress who played Ling all the way back in You Only Live Twice. Which is quite cool. I really like that little link. And the fact Madame Wu is a wicked name as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's also another sort of similar throwback in the earlier poker scene. Where he wins the car off Dimitrios?
Yeah.
There's one of the card players there. I don't think she's got a name in the film, but her name is Diane Hartland, I think. And she is the same girl who was in Thunderball, who, when Bond is dancing and then Fiona cuts in and she's like, you should have told me your wife was here. And that's actually her. So it's, from all those years ago, they brought like a couple of old players back, which I think is quite cool, actually.
That is nice. That is a nice little subtle touch as well. Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, Diane Hartford, her name was, Diane Hartford. I guess they're the sort of honourable mentions. Ocean Club Girl, though. Definitely, definitely a good one.
Definitely. So what would you say is your best Bond girl moment in Casino Royale then, Chris?
Wow, there's a lot, isn't there? I mean, I already mentioned the train scene, obviously, between Bond and Vesper, which I think is fan-bloody-tastic. I absolutely adore the shower scene after the stairwell fight, where he goes back up and he just finds her still clothed, drip, water's all over the place, and he just gets in, joins her, he's clothed as well. And I just think you don't have to say anything. It's purely what you're seeing. It's all visual, and you're getting the emotions, you're getting the connection between the two of them. And obviously both of their sort of responses after what they've just seen or at least encountered. So I think that's a fantastic scene. And then obviously you've got the end scene where she pretty much the end scene where she dies in the lift, and it's like, all three of those are absolute bangers. Really, it's hard to pick one, but
it is hard.
They're all amazing.
I think the death scene is really fucking haunting. I think like the scene at the end of Majesties is awful, but you don't see it happen. The shot is from the outside of the car. You know what I mean? And you don't see her until she's already dead. But the fact that like that look in Eva Green's eyes when she lets out that last bit of air is just horrible to look at, man. It's really nasty. And to see Bond like powerless outside the door, like trying to get to her and he just can't. Man, that is a haunting moment, man. It really is. And that moment where she finally just sort of stops moving and she's just like died and she's just floating there. Oh man, that is a moment. Yeah, go on. Sorry, you were going to say.
It's very realistic, isn't it? It's almost like you're watching someone drown, which is obviously what they're meant to do. But you don't see stuff like that in everyday sort of films or stuff, do you? Actually staying on that person as you're almost seeing the water go in, and it's like, it is powerful stuff, and definitely like haunting, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I think my favourite moment, actually, I think the standout moment, because it's iconic, and I think it will go down as one of those memorable scenes. I think it already is, but I think it will be held in even higher regard as the shower scene, because the story goes, wasn't it, that she was meant to either be in her underwear or naked in the shower scene, and Daniel was like, no, she wouldn't have stopped to do that. You've got to have her fully clothed, and it's all the more powerful for it. And I think as well, it's like it's a good mixture, because you've just seen Daniel choking some dude out literally hand to hand in this brutal fight. You've seen him, like, when he says to her, go and get Mathis, tell him that I've hidden the bodies down here. And he's like, go! And she runs off and she's all dazed. And then, so you see that side of him, like, that's all business. And then you see, like, the softer side of him. And maybe, just maybe, that scene is the time when they start to fall in love with each other. Do you know what I mean? I think that might be where it begins.
I think so. I think you're right. And I love the fact that you just mentioned about him strangling, because with that very same arm that he's just used to choke a guy to death, he then puts it tenderly around her shoulder. And that's quite a nice sort of contrast as well, isn't it?
Well spotted that. I like that. Yeah, that is good. Yeah. So, but again, there's some good Bond girl scenes in that one. So it is a tough choice. So moving on, then it's time for the scrotum of Boris. I mean, the quantum of Solace.
Very nice.
So let's kick off with Strawberry Fields. Now, I've got a question for you, Chris, which is
yes.
Do you think the Strawberry Fields thing was going to have like a payoff in the movie, in the sense that there was some joke in there that they actually had and then later cut out? Because the payoff for Strawberry Fields doesn't happen until you see the credits roll at the very end. There's that line of, she calls herself Fields, what's your first name? Just Fields. And it's never mentioned again. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's a bit of a strange one, really, because I think the name Strawberry Fields is cool. It could be seen as a classic Bond girl name. Obviously, it's a bit of a throwback to sort of 60s names a little bit. But I think they missed a trick, because obviously the Christmas Jones, you're thinking that if they did have it in there, I would have liked to have seen it, because obviously she's just Agent Fields, really. The whole Strawberry doesn't really happen. I know we obviously see it in the credits, but that name is getting more sort of words, more sort of airtime for not actually being in the film than if it had been, sort of thing. So that's what I mean is it's mentioned a lot for something that isn't actually in the film. Whereas I think, why didn't they use it? It would have been quite good. Perhaps they couldn't. Perhaps they tried and it didn't work, or it was forced, or whatever. I don't know quite what joke they would have had. But I think Alec Trevelyan would have been into it, because he likes strawberries, doesn't he? Tastes like strawberries. But no, it would have been quite cool. It would have been quite cool to have seen what they did if they had like an in joke. But what do you think? Do you think they should have mentioned it in the film?
I don't know. It's just a bit of an oddity, isn't it? In the sense that, like, it's funny that you don't that laugh that comes from that name doesn't happen until the credits are rolling, which I guess is a unique way of doing things, but it just a bit made me wonder whether there was some sort of payoff there that was maybe sort of ended up on the cutting room floor or something. But in terms of Strawberry Fields as a character, she's kind of sort of easily seduced by Bond. He doesn't have to put in much effort, and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about Strawberry?
I do love the bit where she rocks up and they're about to go into this like dead end of a hotel, and Bond's like, no, I've got a better idea. Takes into this swanky hotel, and then the whole, we're teachers on sabbatical and we've just won the lottery sort of thing. And that's quite nice, and there's good little payoff between those two there. I think the character's not in it for long, really. I think I do like Gemma Arterton. I'm a big fan of Gemma Arterton. I think she's great. I think it's a bit sort of, why would they send someone like that out to get all that way to sort of get Bond and tell him to come back? It's a little bit nonsensical, I'd imagine.
And let's face it, you wouldn't send a pretty young lady to do that job either, would you?
No. Well, Bond would obviously, what's Bond going to do with that? It's interesting, but there's that scene where obviously you don't actually see anything happen, but she's on the bed, and there's that whole thing about, oh, will you come into my room and help me find some stationery or something like that? It's like, what? That's a really strange line, isn't it? Very strange line. But I think it's not too bad. They go to the party together, don't they? The Green Party, and she sort of trips up Elvis as he goes after Bond, and oh, I'm so sorry, and stuff like that. But then you've got the scene, obviously the death scene, which I think this divides people as well, because I know you're not a fan whatsoever. I personally actually don't mind it. I know what they're trying to do was a bit forced, but I actually don't mind it at all. I actually quite like it. I don't think it's amazing, but I don't mind it.
It is an interesting one, to say the least. For me, that scene sort of sticks out a little bit. Obviously, it's a Goldfinger reference, And that moment in Goldfinger is one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema history.
Yeah.
And I feel like that whole thing sort of just is a bit stuck in there. Like it's weird. Like, why is she covered in oil? Because it's like the motivation behind the villain here is the water supply. It's not like he's some huge oil magnate. So
no, but he's trying to throw them off, isn't he? Because they don't know what it is. So he's making them think that oil is the main thing behind the story, behind what they're after. Because do you remember he talks about sort of they initially think it's all about oil, and he's trying to fuel that, whereas it's not. It's obviously about water. That's trying to throw them off scent.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know for me, that one. It's just, I feel like the thing is, I think the problem lies with it in that Dominic Green is, like we said in our villains episode, he doesn't have that much memorable stuff going on. I do like the performance. He is that sort of, I could almost see him as being like a Blofeld type. Do you know what I mean? He's got that sort of, he's got the accent, he's got those sort of like bug eyes and stuff, and like he has got that psycho side to him, which I think him as an actor is great, but the actual character of Dominic Green is just a bit sort of forgettable when you compare him to the other villains. And I feel like maybe if he'd have had something, it's like we said about Largo, with the temperature torture. I feel like if he'd have had that one good scene, that would have elevated Largo above and made him 100 times more memorable to the average fan than he is. And I feel like Dominic Green, if he'd have had that thing, whatever that is, and that would have been Strawberry Fields ending for me. Whether he was trying to throw MI6 off the scent or not, I just feel like, I don't know. I feel it's just a bit stuck in there for me.
Okay. So what about overall thoughts on the Strawberry Fields character?
Yeah, she's all right. She's a bit of I've heard reference to her as a bit of a Mary Goodnight, in the sense that she's a bit of a pushover and sort of, a bit like that. I can definitely see that comparison, I guess. I feel like she's another one of those characters. She could have been a recurring one of, Bond's bit on the side at MI6. Do you know what I mean? I feel like she could have brought back. Yeah, she's all right. She's cool.
Yeah, excellent. All right, that sounds good. So, on to the main Bond girl of the piece, Camille Montes. What do we think of Camille?
Oh, goodness me, Chris. Oh, Elektra King gets me. Well, they all get me on some level, but Elektra King gets me, and goodness gracious me, does Camille get me as well. Oh, of note is the fact that she's the only Bond girl that Bond doesn't get to pillage. He just gets a little random snog with her at the end. Which, what
a shame as well. Like, if you had a choice of them not to go with, Olga Kurylenko would be like right at
I would have said, right at the top. Let's write that Mayday scene out. Let's get rid of that one. Let's get Olga in. That's I would have. They said that Daniel did a lot of writing on Quantum because of the writer's strike. I would have definitely rewritten that scene for sure. That would have been my choice had I been Daniel. But yeah, I think she's cool. I think not only is she absolutely drop dead stunningly gorgeous, there's that whole really dark backstory, isn't there, with the whole thing about her parents and stuff, and her mother and sister being raped and murdered by Medrano and all that kind of stuff. And she's out for revenge. So I think that backstory is cool. I think... Yeah, I guess so. I guess she's another one that fits into like the Melina Havelock mold, isn't she? What do you think about that?
Well, she's a cross between both, isn't she? Because although she's not really a kept woman, she's still kind of Dominic Green's.
She's sort of playing that game, isn't she? Yeah,
playing the game. But she's obviously, when we first see her, Dominic Green sent someone to kill her, hasn't he? So he's obviously not too keen on having her around. But yet he knows that she's just going through him to try to get to General Medrano. Obviously, we see her back covered in sort of flame-scarred sort of skin, which is pretty cool. And then obviously we find out later on about, obviously what he's done. And her, like you said, it's very much a Melina Havelock sort of revenge for killing parents sort of thing. A very, very good point, that. And I think it's good because she is so set on that it doesn't form a possibility that her and Bond would ever get to. She'd never be at that sort of emotional level where she'd want a quickie on the side because she's so intent on gaining revenge, which is good. Which, you know, I think you got to again hand it to Eon for having a female Bond character who is like that, because again it goes against type, and that's what we like, really, a bit of a risk and a bit of a change and stuff. But she's so bloody stunning. She's Olga Kurylenko. It absolutely like gets you everything boiling, really, doesn't she?
Yeah, Elektra King with a little bit of Olga and some Severine. I mean, let's be honest, that wouldn't even be worth beginning, because it would be over within a heartbeat of a second. It would just, that would be game over for me before it even begins, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I like her. I think she's brilliant. And what has to be said is Olga is one of the few Bond girls that have gone on to bigger and better, not bigger and better things, but like has gone on to have like a decent starring career in other movies. Yeah. Like, you know, if you like Severine, we just haven't really seen her since Skyfall, you know. Obviously Eva Green's the same. She's gone on to other things as well. But Olga seems to be up there in the movies more, doesn't she? Eva Green's more of a TV kind of actor at the moment, which is interesting. So yeah, good old Camille. She's good.
I do like the bit as well where just before they're about to break into the Perla de las Dunas hotel thing, or it's not a hotel in it, you know, the sort of the base. Yeah. And Bond is showing her about the gun, and sort of saying, you know, you've got to take the shot and don't be afraid and just go with your instinct and that sort of stuff. And there's real nice, it's kind of like a real cool scene that, again, it's almost like two friends going into like, the sort of going into hell to, you know, what, figuratively speaking, you know, to get to the main adversary, and he's kind of teaching her a little bit of what he knows in a short space of time, just to get her prepared emotionally for what might happen. And I really like that. I think that's cool. And there's obviously that scene as well where she gets into there's the other girl that's being raped or about to be raped by Medrano, and she goes in and the other girl flees, and then he sort of attacks her, and she does give her own back. She does give as good as she gets, but obviously he's quite overpowering as well, isn't he? But ultimately she gets sort of obviously manages to survive and stuff, which is cool. But also you got to definitely got to highlight that point where after they're in the airplane, they parachute down, they're in that sort of cave type thing where the water reservoir is, and that's when she's sort of talking a bit about backstory. Is great. But I love that bit afterwards where they manage to get out, and you just see them walking through the sort of desolated Bolivian landscape, really like Spy, you know, Bond's in his dinner jacket and stuff. Olga Kurylenko's in a black dress with her shoes, and I think it looks great. Like visually, it looks brilliant. Yeah,
that is a brilliant shot. I think, like, do you remember the poster for Quantum? I think Daniel has never looked better than in the Quantum poster. Like the way he's lit and just the look and, you know, all that kind of stuff. He looks brilliant on the Quantum poster. It's weird, isn't it? There's loads of Spy Love Me references in Quantum, isn't there? It says Robert Sterling on his business card that he hands over.
That's right.
It's got the hanging onto the tie bit off the roof.
Of course it has. Yeah,
it's got that, and they're walking through the desert as well. So there's three that I can think of. There might even be more that I haven't noticed. I don't know, but yeah, good old Camille, good old revenge kind of backstory there. That's good. What about honourable mentions? We got any of those?
Yeah, so we got a couple. So we got Mathis's girlfriend, who's called Gemma. She's basically the one who sort of sunbathes around and does little else, from what I can tell. But obviously Mathis, there's that whole thing about Mathis that we weren't sure about, were we? But he was MI6 sort of gave him this place to stay, and he's got his sort of missus or his friend along with him. So I mentioned there. Also Corinne at the end. Who is Yusef's new girlfriend.
Absolutely. Canadian intelligence.
Isn't she a Canadian? Yeah, that's right. Canadian secret agent who definitely deserves a mention. Again, that would be potentially, I don't know if you could use it again, but, you know, working hand in hand with Canadian intelligence on a mission, maybe. Who knows? You never know.
You never know.
But I think that she definitely deserves an honourable mention as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool stuff. So what would you say is... there it is. So what would you say is the best Bond girl moment in Quantum of Solace then, Chris?
I would say I do like the bit with, well, visually that the walk with Camille and Bond through the desert's brilliant. I think I like the dialogue when they're both stuck in that sort of cave area and they're talking about their backstory, and Bond saying about his, and they both realise that they're both both just one man people on a sole mission, if you know what I mean, in terms of that neither of them are thinking about anyone else. It's just they've both got the mission, and funnily enough, she's not a secret agent, but yet her life is almost like a secret agent in terms of what she set out to do. So her and Bond really mirror each other in terms of their motives and their goals and stuff like that. And I think that's really, really nice, particularly the fact that she's not a secret agent, but they have got that familiarity and similarity is really good. So I put that up there. That'd probably be my favourite, I think, actually. I do like the oil scene, I don't mind, but I think that would be my favourite.
I think for me, I struggle to come up with one particular scene that stands out above all others. So I'm going to choose one that just amuses me. And I think I really like that moment when he sort of just arrived. He's just killed Edmund Slate, and he comes out the hotel and she bombs up in the car and she's like, "Get in," and he's like, "All right," and just sort of gets in. I remember they put that in the teaser trailer, or maybe it was the full trailer. I remember it made me laugh. I like that bit. That's my favourite.
Cool. I like it.
Cool.
There we go.
So then, well, it's nearly not the latest Bond film. It's the latest one in terms of this, but in just 2 weeks and a bit, 2 weeks and a few days, this won't be the latest Bond film anymore, Chris. It's time for some Skyfall. So,
Skyfall.
I suppose we should start off with Bond's lover on the beach in Turkey or wherever he's supposed to be holed up. Yeah.
So Skyfall is really an interesting film in terms of the Bond girl perspective because, we'll start with Bond's lover. You know, don't really see her much, but the fact that we think Bond's dead, well, obviously we know he's not, but, you know, we've seen him and everyone else thinks he's dead. And then he's in this little beach hut in bed with this woman, having a beer, as you do, probably after having a bit of hanky-panky just before that. And and then, you know, so we don't see a lot of her, but it's interesting because we don't ever find anything about her. Did he just pick her up on the beach at the bar the previous night? Has he been seeing her for like, you know, a couple of months or however long it's been since he's sort of ran away there? You know, they looked quite comfortable together, to be fair.
I get the feeling, they've been seeing each other for a while and she's just purely there to pass the time. And that by the time we see that scene on the beach, he's bored, he's had enough, and he's just, you know, that's what I feel.
Yeah, chomping at the bit.
To get absolutely.
Back. Okay. Yeah. And then, obviously, we've got to talk about the wonderful, the lovely, the beautiful Severine. Now, what do we think of Severine? Yeah,
again, she is absolutely stunningly beautiful. Good God. But there's like a darkness in there, like that scene in the Macau casino where you see her, like when she's across the room and she turns around and eyeballs Bond. There's like a darkness in that stare that's actually a little bit makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's something going on there. But she's bloody gorgeous, man. Good God. And again, she's one of those kept women, big time, probably more kept than any of the others, really. And you've got that kind of, isn't she? She at least she wasn't she? Before, so there's that kind of whole dark backstory. She's another one that Bond offers to rescue her, and she's like, no, not from him. She's another one of those. And sorely underused, man. I think it was a crime they killed her off so soon, and in that way as well. What do you think?
I mean, it was strange because when I first watched Skyfall, I was expecting, obviously, she was the main Bond girl, you know, in terms of the posters and whatever else you'd seen and stuff like that. And I was expecting, let's see what we've got here. And I remember thinking when I first came out, what was that about in terms of that she wasn't really, she would have been in the sort of classic Bond sense, she would have been like the middle Bond girl who gets killed off halfway, but where's the main Bond girl thereafter? So it was very strange. When I first saw it, it did throw me a little bit, actually. I did think to myself, okay, I thought she was great. looks great, brilliant character, but she's not in it for long. What comes after that? And I did feel a bit sort of put out initially, but I think Bernice Marlowe does such a bang up job. Like that bit in the casino when Bond and her are talking, and you can tell she's trying to be as confident as she can, but her acting is so good that you can tell that she's trying to be confident and isn't acting to be confident, if that makes sense.
It does. And
then when she starts to talk about fear and to talk about him, it's like there's when her hands slowly start shaking, and I think it's a brilliant portrayal of that in that particular scene. I think Bernice nails it so well, and like it every time I watch it, that character gets better and better each time you watch Skyfall, because that performance is so good. It's really subtle in places, but it's just so good in terms of what she does with just showing how sort of frightened that character actually is. And here she sees Bond, a man with a gun, a man who's physically fit, who's handsome. Could he be the person to rescue her? Very similar to Andrea Anders. Again, if we're going back to sort of kept sort of women, she saw Bond as her rescuer, and here we go. We've got Severine. Initially, she thinks, well, he won't have a chance, but then she sort of thinks, well, maybe he does. And obviously, to almost test the waters, she's like, okay, come and meet me on my boat, knowing that he's got to get past so many guards or whatever to do that. It's almost like a little test for him, isn't it? And almost a bit like Knick Knack, isn't it? Testing scare. There's a bit of that in there. So I think that was quite cool. And then there's a great bit. Obviously, she's having a shower. Bond, this time he does take his clothes off before he goes in. And I like the old line, I prefer you better without your Beretta, or whatever it is. That's a nice little line. And then they're obviously then happy together. And then obviously you get that scene on the boat going towards the island. And then basically, it's not too much after that. And she's there with a little shot of lovely scotch and the old pistol sort of shot to kill her type thing. Yeah,
absolutely. I think for an exotic beauty like that, she's criminally underused. And the thing is okay, so there's the Bond girl that dies halfway through, and then you got the main Bond girl. And I think the difference with this is really, I think the main Bond girl, you would have to say, is perhaps Moneypenny in this film.
I would actually disagree. I'd say it's M.
All right. Yeah, okay, go on.
Yeah, just because the amount of screen time, that third act Bond girl is M.
Do you know what? You're
Bond
right, yeah.
is with M for that whole time, isn't he? He sort of takes her obviously up to Scotland. They do all that sort of thing, and then it's all about protecting M. Silver's come to kill her, and although obviously they're both referred to her as the mother, as she's more of a mother than a Bond girl. She is the Bond girl in this film. She is the main Bond girl in this film. Obviously, it's a completely different type of Bond girl, but I would say that she is actually the main Bond girl. So in a way, the formula is still there. You've got you haven't got the girl. Okay, Moneypenny's sort of flitting in between. But you've got the sort of brief scene of the lover. You've got the femme fatale type person, obviously the girl that dies, Severine, and then M is the main Bond girl. I guess that's how I would see it. I guess.
Do you know what? That's absolutely true. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, that is what it is. Yeah, good old Judi Dench is the main Bond girl in Skyfall. I didn't see that one coming.
God bless her.
Yeah, God bless
I love her as M.
Do you know what? In those scenes later on when he's protecting her in the house, and and they have that sort of brief moment of lull before Silver arrives, I just want to cuddle her. Do you know what I mean? She's so little and looks so helpless. I just want to give her a cuddle and let her know it'll be all right,
you do.
Poor old him. So, I suppose it's 2 out of 3 Craig Bond films have had a woman close to Bond's heart dead at the end of the film. So I wonder whether Spectre will follow that formula.
Maybe. It's definitely worth having a bit of a chat. I couldn't really think of any other honourable mentions in terms of Skyfall. No one came to mind. Obviously, Moneypenny we could say as well. Yeah. But outside of MI6...
I think that's it, isn't it, really? Yeah.
So what would you say then is your best Bond girl moment in Skyfall?
That is a tough one. I would say that is a tough one because I'm a big fan of Severine. And as much as I don't like what happens, that scene of her with the shot glass on her head, and that is a very memorable scene, despite the fact that I don't think they should have killed her off so soon. And B, I really don't like the line that Bond comes out with afterwards, which is the waste of good scotch. To me, that just doesn't sit right for me. So that is a good solid scene. I think. I do tell you what, one that does stick to mind is the scene where Moneypenny gives Bond a shave. I think that's quite a cool little. That's
a very
scene.
Good shout.
Yeah.
Brilliant shout, actually, because it's the old dog, new tricks, and there's nice sort of chemistry. Obviously, it was the beginnings of their relationship as well. How it takes place. Did something happen or not? Who knows? But that's quite nice, and then it leads into that casino scene afterwards quite well because they both turn up in their smarts and. Chatting to each other through the earpiece and stuff, and that's a really good shout. I think for me personally, I mean that is a brilliant one. Even Moneypenny shooting Bond, in the pre-titles is quite cool a little bit. But for me personally, it's got to be that scene in the casino with Severine, just her sort of just seeing how scared she is at that. I think that's a great scene. I love that scene a lot.
Very nice.
So that would be mine.
So that rounds it all out, doesn't it? Obviously we're going to have to, like Eon do with the box sets, we're going to have to do another Bond Girls episode in a year's time to incorporate the Spectre Bond Girls. But that's it. So I suppose we should sort of have a brief look back across all of these movies we've talked about over the last 3 episodes, and maybe sort of, what would you say? Choose a favourite, maybe.
I think maybe perhaps either choose a favourite in terms of the best Bond girls, or perhaps say 3 or 4 that we think have to be up there in terms of the Bond girl content that they have. Okay, and this is not going to be easy at all.
It's not going to be easy. Well, I say it's not going to be easy. For me, in some respects, it is going to be easy. So what I'm going to have to do is do the 2 categories like we've previously discussed.
Yeah.
One category for the ones I just want to get down and filthy with, and then the other category is the category for like strength of character and all that kind of stuff.
But we have to do it by film and not by individual Bond girl. So this is to see Bond girl films.
All right.
Yeah. Because we've gone through the film, so rather than no, maybe not. Maybe we could do it individually. It just sounds like we've done that before, because we're doing.
Well, I tell you what. Let me just rack it out now, because I just need to get it off my chest, Chris. I just need to get it out.
Do it. I can see your
Elektra King.
Pent up.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Camille Montes. Yes, please. Severine. Yes, please. Okay, I've done it now. We can move on.
do you know what's interesting?
Go on.
Is that you've mentioned quite a few times about leggy blondes.
Yeah.
Yet they're all brunettes.
That is true. And I tell you, do you know what it is? I think the leggy blonde is great. I have a big fan of the leggy blonde. But I think in this case, what it is that these particular 3 that I've chosen have a real air of exotic mystery about them that just stands out above all the others for me in that regard. But maybe I need to choose my best 3-legged blondes from the series as well. I'm going to be here all day. Go on, you take over. Tell me what's going on.
All right. Okay. I'm going to try and think of films. I think we need to say, okay, which film or which films had the best Bond girl? Throwing some about, I think Goldfinger's great. You think Pussy Galore, the Masterson sisters, Dink, the Pussy Galore's Flying Circus, that's great. Thunderball, oh my God, you got Fiona Volpe, you got Domino, you got Patricia Fearing, you got Paula Kaplan, brilliant stuff there. I think Spies cracking, you've got Barbara Bach, you've got Naomi, you've got, Log Cabin Girl, Felicia and all the others. Moonraker in terms of Corinne Dufour, you've got all the all the astronauts, obviously Holly Goodhead, not bad. I think License to Kill is great, Lupe Lamora and obviously Pam Bouvier, not bad. Goldeneye, Xenia and Natalya is not bad. I think The World Is Not Enough as well. Obviously, Elektra King we're both huge fans of. I think visually Denise Richards is up there. Plus Cigar Girl as well. That's a cracker. Casino Royale, that's not bad. It's hard, isn't it? It's hard. Could you choose your favourite film or perhaps favourite 3 Bond films in terms of purely their Bond girl? I mean, Majesties, in terms of the amount of girls in that as well.
Yeah, it depends what you're looking for. Okay, so I feel Thunderball is definitely up there in that top 3, man, without a shadow of a doubt. I would say, Thunderball's up there. I would say it's so difficult to choose. I would say Doctor No, because you've got Honey Rider in there, and there is no arguing with Honey Rider, and that fills my leggy blonde box. But then again, you don't have that's not like an ensemble, like an obvious ensemble,
Sylvia Trench is nice as well, isn't she?
That's true, and you obviously got Miss Taro as well. But I think the number one choice for me has to be Thunderball, because it's just that whole. You've got Paula Kaplan, you've got Domino, you've got Fiona Volpe, and that is a triple threat of Bond girls that are all amazing.
And Patricia Fearing,
of course, a quadruple threat.
Yeah. I'd happily go with Thunderball as well. Should we say that's the best one for
Let's
Bond
do it.
girls?
Let's award the award.
There we are.
Let's open the envelope. Very nice, cool stuff.
Let's put that out to the listeners as well. So, once you've had to listen to this, it'll be great to hear who you think or what Bond film you think has the best range of Bond girls.
Very nice. So then, Chris, let's put the Bond girls to bed. Hopefully my bed. And I'll go there later after we finish recording. So to round out the episode, I think it's time for some Bond trivia.
Bond trivia. Oh, yeah.
So I believe I went first, didn't I, today?
I believe you did, actually, yes.
So my question of the day is, which actor, again, you can just give me the character name and the film, which actor who appeared in Diamonds Are Forever also appeared in another Bond film, and what was that film?
Okay, now, this could be a number of people.
I think it could, yes, absolutely. Again, obviously, core cast members don't count. It's just the sort of minor players.
Well, I can think of a couple.
All right,
I'll start with one, and if it's not that one, then let me know. So the first one I'm thinking of is the Slumber Inc. gangster, who is also plays Rodney at the pre-titles of Man with the Golden Gun.
That is a good one. I wasn't thinking of that one, but that's actually a more obvious one than the question I've gone to. Well done, Chris. Good stuff. Okay. I've learned something today.
Or how about there is Shane Rimmer, who plays Tom in the White Technologies. He's also in Spy as Captain Commander Carter. He's also in You Only Live Twice as one of the Hawaii dudes, and he's also in something else as well. What's the other one he's in?
Moonraker.
I know he provides the voice of Hamilton in Live and Let Die.
Is he in Moonraker?
So it's not is it him? No,
is he in Moonraker? He's not. Okay, all right. No. That's another good one. Not the one I was thinking of.
Right. Okay. It's got to be this one then. Let me think. No. Okay. So I've got two more.
Oh God!
But I think I know which of the two it's going to be.
Okay,
so is it Ed Bishop? He plays in Diamonds Are Forever. He plays Klaus Hergesheimer, G-Section. And he's also in You Only Live Twice. He plays Hawaii Capcom radio dude.
Another good one, but not the one I was thinking of.
Oh, okay. Right. Hang on a second. Let me think. Different hell. Come on. Oh, there's a real minor one, which we mentioned previously, who is in the pre-titles of Diamonds, Terence Mountain. He plays one of the bad guys in the pre-titles of Diamonds. He comes in, not the guy with the big sideburns.
Yeah. He
gets his fingers trapped, but the other guy. And he's also in the pre-titles of Majesties and the beach fight when Bond comes out. Is it him?
Another good one, Chris, but not the one I was thinking of. We are going down a rabbit hole today. Any others?
Okay, let me think. Okay, the only other one, I think, is it David DeKeyser who plays Dr. Tynan? I think, did he do something else? Did he provide a voice or was he something else? I can't remember. But it's not Dr. Tynan, is it?
No.
No? Oh my God. Okay, so I'm running out of characters now. I really can't think. Can you give me a clue?
I imagine he sleeps quite well.
Nice. Is this in relation to the diamond, to his character in Diamonds? No.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that is a solid clue.
Oh, is it? He sleeps quite well. No. Is it him? Oh, is it? It's not Peter Franks, is it? No. I don't remember him in something else. No. Flipping hell, I think you might got me.
Have I got you? I'm surprised, man. Well, this is an unusual one because I knew I was either going to go with this one or the Klaus Hergesheimer one. So I knew there was going to be multiple options, but I didn't realise just how many multiple options I could have gone with this question. So we both learned something today, I think.
What's the other film that he's in? And give me that and see if I can get it.
He is also in You Only Live Twice.
Right, okay. And it's not Klaus Hergesheimer. It's not Shane Rimmer. It's is it? I know. I was going to say he's Mr. Ling and Goldfinger. It's not Burt Kwok. Flipping hell! Is he one of the Hawaiian radio guys? No.
The Hawaiian radio guys.
Oh no, sorry. One of the NASA radio dudes. No, it's not. Nope. Obviously. Mate, I think you got me.
Have I got you?
Yes, as well.
At last.
I think you have.
I've
got a blank. I've drawn a blank.
All right, you ready for it? You ready for the answer?
Yeah, I'm going to hate it because I'm going to know what it is. Go on.
Okay.
Can you do a line that he does? You're about to anyway, aren't you?
Do you know what? I can't off the top of my head. I can't remember any off the top of my head. But the answer is Mr. David Bauer, who plays Morton Slumber in Diamonds Are Forever, also plays a diplomat in You Only Live Twice.
Of course he does, in the pre-titles. Oh, God, what an idiot. What an idiot. Oh, man. Well done, though. Awesome. Oh, well. Yeah. It's crazy the amount of actors in the earlier films that are used in, like, more than one role, isn't it?
Yeah,
David Bauer,
is.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a blank.
There he is. Cool. So what was your question of the day?
Okay, so my question for today was, Mr. Tom Sears, can you tell me the middle names of the Bond girls from Goldeneye, Xenia Onatop and Natalya Simonova?
I can answer that question, Chris, and I will provide my answer as follows. Natalya Fyodorovna Simonova, so it's Fyodorovna.
Lovely. Excellent.
And Xenia Sergeyevna Onatop.
Ooh, top marks. Love
Thanks.
it, Tom. Love it. Excellent stuff. I think any GoldenEye question, you're pretty much a dead cert for...
that film for me, man, I think I've probably watched that more than any other. You know, when I had my pirate video back in 95, man, I watched the shit out of that video, big style. There we go. Good stuff.
Excellent.
Coolio, it's rare for me to stump you on a trivia question. You usually bang them out, so I feel quite special today that I've managed to get you.
Yeah, I had a blank. I went through however many I went through, but I just had a mind blank. But it happens, you know. Only happens. Human. There we are.
Absolutely. So it's time for the Guess the Quote round.
Bond, 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 Bond.
Is that the Sam Smith version?
It was. It was. In nice. Just the same tuneful sort of
tuneful way. Very emotional. I like it.
Yeah.
So it was my quote last time, if I remember correctly. And
yes, it was.
It was, yes. So my quote is as follows.
Yes.
Excellent.
You know what? I've got it. I think I haven't got it because when you said it last week, I don't know, maybe you did say it the same. I had someone else in mind. That doesn't sound like the person I've got. Damn it, that means I got it wrong. Like, I was trying to think, because I'm sure there obviously must be quite a few people that say excellent, and it's hard to not think of Montgomery Burns when it's said. But, like,
excellent.
The one that sprang to mind initially, which I now know is not the one, is I had Rosa Klebb in From Russia with Love when she's talking to Morzeni about Red Grant, and he's sort of saying, strangled is a therapist, whatever, to escape Dartmoor prison. She's like, oh, excellent. But that's not it, is it?
No, it's not it.
That sounded like a man. Flip.
I'm going to do it again for you.
Excellent. Okay.
Excellent.
Ah. That rang some bells. Bugger.
I'll give you a clue. It's way more recent than From Russia with Love.
Yeah. I knew.
Go on.
No, wait. Excellent. Oh, man. I know your eyes on the tip of my tongue. This is so annoying. It's so annoying.
All right, so start off then. Do you know who the Bond would be in not the film, but like who would be playing Bond in this film?
Say it one more time.
Excellent.
Oh, no. Shit, it's gone. Who would the Bond be then? Give us a clue.
It will be a Brosnan.
Right, okay. Oh man, I'm gonna. No, it's gone. I wish.
No.
Yeah, no, gone. Any other clues, or is that too much?
I can give you the film it's in.
Oh.
Go on.
Is it? No, it's not. Is it Dr. Kaufman? No, it's not. Is it? Oh, who is it? I can hear it. I just can't picture them.
I'll give you the film.
Excellent.
And maybe that will narrow it down enough. This will be the final clue. It's now or never.
Yeah. This is
The World is
cheating,
Not Enough.
isn't it? All right. Yeah. Okay.
It's in The World is Not Enough.
Excellent. Oh my God! Come on.
Excellent. Would you like me to reveal the answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so you remember the scene where Bond steals the ID and he goes onto the plane?
Davidoff.
There it is.
Oh!
Davidoff, he gets his trainers out of the bag. He looks at him.
Oh, of course.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Puts them back in the bag.
Oh, brilliant. Man, you got me on that one.
Yeah.
I've been failed on the trivia and on the...
To be fair, though, a one-word quote is a difficult one to get because there are many different times when that word is said. But there we go. So have you got one for me this week?
I have. Let me think. What was it? Sorry, I don't really think. What is it? Oh yeah. Oh no. Okay. My quote for this week is "Meine Damen und Herren."
Do you know what's funny about that? Do it again for me. I just need to make sure.
Meine Damen und Herren.
What's funny about that is I have a little notebook of quotes when they pop into my head that I keep for future episodes.
Really?
And that is one of them. So I know exactly who that is.
Oh, no. That's a good idea. I should keep a little notebook of quotes. Okay, then. So you don't need any clue. Oh, no. You can't tell me this week, can you?
I might be wrong, but I'm fairly confident.
You might be wrong.
But obviously we will... we will reveal that one next time. So we had a listener quote last time from Mr. Rob Jones, which was this one.
Your code, sir?
So, Chris, how did you fare with that one? Any ideas?
Yeah, well, I think I might have it. Initially, straight away, I started thinking, start a Dr. No, but it's not that because it was rather than giving someone his coat, it was more like, would you like to leave your coat over there, sir? So that's the first thing, but obviously that wasn't right. But then the next thing that came into my mind is the one I think it might be. So
go on then. Who do you reckon it is?
I think it's from Thunderball, and I think it's Fiona Volpe to Major Duval just before he gets gassed by Angelo. In that they're in that hotel room, and she's like, "Your coat, sir," just before he leaves. I think that's the one that I could think of.
I think I think you're right. I'm on board with that. Shall we have a listen to the answer?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, lads. Rob Jones here again with my answer to the Guess the Quote. The quote was, "Your coat, sir?" That was, of course, from Thunderball and the delicious Fiona Volpe when she's in the bedroom with Major Duval. I'm loving the show, guys. Keep it coming. Thanks very much.
The delicious Fiona Volpe, indeed. Absolutely. So you did well there, Chris. Well done. Good stuff. Thanks for that quote, Rob. An excellent performance. Now, we do have another listener quote, which I'm sure you're going to be very excited for, Chris. This time it's all the way from the USB from Mr. Jack Taylor. So let's have a listen to what Jack has to say for himself this week.
Hey guys, this is Jack Taylor in the United States here in Naperville, Illinois. And I'm calling in with a listener quote today. Please forgive the horrible accent. I'm not very good at replicating them, but without further ado, here it goes. I don't think you heard me. All right, that's all I got for you. So good luck, guys. Keep up the great work. I'm loving the podcast. I think it's a great idea that you guys started this. Looking forward to more.
Now, for somebody who says he's not good at reproducing accents, that is a fucking brilliant impression. That was really good.
I thought it was absolutely spot on because you could say that line without any accent, and it's quite a tricky one to get. But he nailed it, to be fair. He absolutely nailed it. Yeah. So we're both obviously quite confident that we know what it might be then.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for that, Jack. Be sure to send in the answer for us next time so we can see if we're right or not. Obviously, we will find out next week. Now, before that, Chris, there's something far more important that we have to attend to.
What's that? Then?
Which is the following. Guess the music.
Lovely. The melody of an angel.
Beautiful, wasn't it? I think I'm in the running for the Bond 25 theme. They've gone with Sam Smith. They're going to say we need someone who's even more tender and emotional. They're going to give Tommy a call, and that's what I'm going to deliver. Yeah.
That's it. I can't wait. Great
stuff. So what's going on then? So what did we have last time?
Okay, so last time we had a piece of music which is very familiar, but the style and sort of delivery of this music makes it quite a difficult one to spot. So yeah, I haven't heard of anyone who's put in guesses for this, but let's see what people think anyway. Let's play last week's and see what everyone thinks.
Right now. I had an initial reaction, and then when I listened again on closer inspection, there was a hint in the background of a different film than I originally thought it was. So I'm going to take you through. I'm going to take you through my thought process. Initially, I thought Diamonds Are Forever. That was my knee jerk, and I thought, no, I don't think it's Diamonds Are Forever.
Okay.
What I think it is, I think it's from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay.
Would I be on the right path there?
I would say you'd be extremely
nice,
positive.
I feel like I've been a detective.
I love that. You know what? I love that because that bit of music, Diamonds has quite a lot of slow Bond themed style throughout the film, and with that little, it does sound very Diamond. So that's super cool that you listen to it and then you're like, no. There's something else to it. And now I know you're going to nail the scene as well because you know what film it is. It's fucking brilliant. What's the scene?
Right. Okay. Well, I tell you what, I've got more to say first. Okay. I tell you what gave it away, right? Is, and I didn't even notice that. If I just listened to it on speakers, didn't notice it. It wasn't until I got it on my headphones and I listened that I was like, oh, that's not Diamonds, that's Majesty's. There's some strings very quietly in the background that just do this boom, 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 kind of little rhythm that is like a little hint of We Have All the Time in the World. That's hidden so low in the mix, and that's what gave it away. I was like, that's fucking Majesty's. That is
brilliant. That's so good there detective
it is.
Work.
So I was very proud of myself there. Now, as opposed to what scene it would be, I'm thinking, is it? To be honest, I'm not 100% on what scene it's from.
Okay.
Is it Gumbold Safe?
It's not Gumbold Safe. It's maybe. I'd say it's definitely before that in the film. It's quite a bit before that in the film.
Okay.
But it is after the main titles. Do you want a clue?
Yeah, give me some clueage.
Okay, it's some sit down chat. Does that help?
It's a sit down chat. So is it with Draco?
It is indeed. Now, there's a particular moment when they chat where it turns into that part of theme. And do you want to know what it is?
Yeah, go on then, lay it on me.
Because it's quite light-hearted. But then there's a bit where Draco goes, what she needs is a man to dominate her. And as he says that line, that it goes into that rift behind it. Into that
really? How funny.
One thing, yeah. It's a cool
Nice.
bit. But I mean, that's amazing detective work, man. You get that for purely 00 intelligence.
It was like I was like Bond in Docino, putting my bit of hair across the gap of the wardrobe.
Yeah.
It was that sort of stuff. Cool, very nice, excellent choice, and I liked it. There was just that briefest little hint in the background that gave it away of the film. Good stuff. So, you got a new one for us this week?
We have. Now, this one is completely different sort of setup. It's I think this one quite a few people would get, but it's the sort of thing where you might go, I know I've heard that, and it's a little twig, and you'll be like, oh yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
It'll be one of those. So yeah, let's have a listen.
Cool.
So
Okay.
there we are. What do you think of that one?
Very nice. I'm confident I'm on the right path with that one. I've got the sniff.
Excellent. Good
So
stuff.
yeah, I'll be excited to find out the answer to that next week. Now, before we do that, Chris, again, the stakes are even higher because we've got something really important to attend to. Would you like to know what it is?
I would very much like to know what it is.
It is time for the complete
The
lyric.
section.
Very
Is that the
nice.
one?
Now, for anybody who failed to understand what we were saying there, it's the complete the lyric section where we have to
course it
complete
is.
the lyric of the song. Now, I must preface this section by saying Chris was very sneaky last time. He was very
I
sneaky.
was a bit too
Usually
sneaky.
we pick a Bond theme song, we lay a lyric down and say, what's the following lyric? And it is very challenging, I must admit. But usually you're on the right path with at least what song it is. This time, Chris, he moved the goalposts. He changed things round. You know, he blindsided me with this different take on the whole
It's
game.
because you were too good. If you weren't so good at it.
Well, thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere, Chris.
Yeah.
And so you got something different for us this time, haven't you?
I have indeed, yeah. So it's obviously it's from a song within a Bond, but this one isn't an actual Bond theme. Although I think after today I will go back to Bond themes because I felt a bit naughty, felt a bit nasty, felt a bit
Don't, man,
mischievous.
because I've got a doozy for you this week in revenge.
Yeah, which is why I want to go back. Okay, I'm scared about your one. Okay, so my one for this week is they want the kingdom, but they don't want the king. They want his throne. Now, any idea of the song?
Do you know what? After we got off the old Skype last time,
Yeah.
I had an epiphany and I realised what song it was. So I know the song. The line, however, I wouldn't have a hope in hell's chance of telling you what the line was.
Okay.
But I'm going to lay it on for my half a point or whatever it is I'm allowed. The song is Where's Everybody Gone? It's that one, isn't it?
Yeah. Brilliant. Well
Yeah,
done. I
it
mean, to be honest, you'll get a full mark for that because I did say last week that it was a bit naughty, and if you can guess the song, then you get the mark. So I'm going to give you a full mark for that one. So it is.
Go on, after you.
Yep. Okay, so it's. I can't remember how it actually goes. I think it's something like they want the king. Oh, I can't even remember how it goes. So they want the. I can't remember. How does it go? Anyway, do you want to know the line?
Yes,
so
please.
it's something like they want the kingdom, but they don't want the king. They want his throne, and there's no time at all, or something like that.
Very nice. All right, cool.
So there we go.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to have to extend the same offer of just the title of the song for you next time.
Oh no!
Because I genuinely sat down and spent some time thinking of this. I was like, right, how can I get the bastard?
Oh, no.
Right, and here it is. Are you ready for it?
Okay. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Hit me with it.
I know you dream a lot, holding on to lies. I know you dream a lot, holding on to lies. Has that rung any bells?
Okay. No. Like, I'd have to play it a few times more.
Yeah.
I think I haven't got it at the moment. I'm not sure what song it is yet. It's not Dirty Love.
No, it's not Dirty Love. I nearly went with Dirty Love, but I knew you would go with that. So yeah, I avoided it.
All right. I'll have a think for sure.
All right, we shall answer that question next time. Now, to finally round out today's episode, it's time for some Bond Celebrity Deathmatch. Now,
it is
Chris, before we even begin,
stuff. Yeah.
we had a little message that I want to run past you. Obviously, we had the situation where we're now in is it the quarterfinals we're in, semi-finals? What are we?
Yeah, in quarters now. Yeah, quarters.
We're in the quarters. So we have an odd number of combatants, don't we? And we were saying, okay, what about the wild card and all that kind of business?
Yeah.
Now, we had a message from Brian Myers, JBR listener Brian Myers. He says, hey, guys, I think I have the solution to the odd-numbered quandary facing the semi-finals. Have 3 one-on-one contests to determine 3 semi-finalists. Then pit the 3 losers in a winner-take-all 3-man battle royale. Last man standing gets the wildcard spot. What do you think? Love the show. Keep the British end up.
Fantastic. That's such a good idea.
It is a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, okay, so we know that so far going through, last week we had Jaws versus Scaramanga. Mm-hmm. And although Scaramanga, brilliant and everything, Jaws, indestructible, Jaws went through. So at the moment, we've got Jaws definitely through, Scaramanga as sort of potentially one of the wild cards. So we've got 4 cards remaining for the quarterfinals. So we'll get 2 winners out of that, and then the remaining 3 will play off as for the wild card. Now, should we play the 3-way wild card as its own celebrity deathmatch, or after?
I feel because it's a unique thing, it's going to be a 3-man fight. It's going to be like Royal Rumble, WWF style, WWE these days. Yeah. That's me showing my age. So I think that deserves its own little window. So the wild card matchup will be a 1-week episode, I reckon. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Brilliant. Okay, in which case we're going to go with the next round of the quarterfinals. So all I've got is 4 cards in my hand. I'm going to shuffle them. And then when you say stop, I'll take the top card and we'll do it that way. Okay?
Lovely. Yep.
Okay, here we go.
Stop.
Ooh, okay. And same again.
Stop.
Ooh. Okay, so in the red corner we have it's only gone and picked out Ernst Stavro Blofeld. Look at that.
There he is. He's back. Donald Blofeld.
There he is, with Solomon the Cat. Okay, so in the blue corner we have none other than your best friend, Xenia Zargevna Onatop. There she is.
Look at her. She's looking all stern and grumpy. I love it.
She is. So we've got Blofeld versus Onatop. Blofeld from You Only Live Twice versus Onatop.
Right.
Now, what do we think?
This is a tricky one. Now, one of Xenia's strengths is her alluring sexuality. She likes to lure men into bed, Chris, and squeeze them with her thighs during coitus.
I remember.
Absolutely, don't we all? Now, that, I feel, is somewhat useless against Ernst Stavro Blofeld, because Ernst Stavro Blofeld, Donald's Blofeld, not Telly's Blofeld, not Charles Gray's Blofeld, but Donald's Blofeld is, I would say, asexual. I don't think he's interested in women at all. The only bit of pussy he's going to be nearby is the one on his lap. and not the four-legged variety, just to clear that up for anyone who wasn't sure. So there's that. However, also I feel Donald's Blofeld isn't particularly strong. You're not going to see Donald's Blofeld flying down the bobsleigh. You're not going to see that. He ain't going to be doing that. He's going to be the fastest he's ever going to go is sitting in that monorail thing, which, to be fair, does go at a certain rate of knots, I will add. But he's not a physically capable villain. He likes to sit there stroking his cat. He's not going to be getting up there throwing punches. All he's going to be doing is getting his revolver out and pulling the trigger. That's as far as we're going to go. Xenia, however, is very physically capable. It's a struggle for Bond in the sauna, for example. It's a struggle for him to overpower her. And she's killed many men in the sack. So I feel this is, with Cena's sexuality not being a part of, an attraction to Blofeld, by the same token, the playing field is somewhat leveled by the fact that Blofeld isn't particularly physically strong, whereas Xenia is. So what are you thinking, Chris? Tell me what's on your mind.
Yeah. That's a good sort of report type thing that you just sort of said about. Yeah, no, no, I agree. Like Xenia, obviously she is a fighter. She's a kick-ass fighter. Okay, so let's put the whole alluring sort of seductress part to one side, because I agree. I don't think that would work with Pleasance as Blofeld. She is good with the machine gun. If she did get close enough to Blofeld, she could still crush him with her thighs, but whether that would ever happen or not, I don't know. She's got her own helicopter, so she could fly into the volcano, or even steal one of Blofeld's and pretend that she was one of his, and use the machine guns to take out some people. Ultimately, though, I do think the whole sort of alluring side not being effective is a big blow, because I'd imagine if you're Xenia on the top, you're going to get a lot of people with that. Blofeld, okay, physically, no, he's not up there. She'd easily kick his ass, but okay, we've got to look at what he's got. Obviously, he's got all of his army. He's got his piranhas. He's got his cat that could like scratch him. He's got Hans.
Yeah,
he's he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's got a rocket, that could burn her maybe. So I don't know. It's a tricky one. Obviously, would there ever be a scenario where she'd find Blofeld by himself, not with any guards, somewhere where she could just get him on a one-on-one? I don't know if that would ever happen. I can imagine Blofeld's always protected. He's always in somewhere that, there would be guards nearby, somewhere where he's
safe. What
safe.
about when he's feeding Mr. Bigglesworth?
Okay. And how would Xenia come into that?
Okay, here are my thoughts on that. Okay, so Donald's in his volcano. He's got the bridge. He's got Hans, though I feel as burly as Hans is, he's not the brightest. He's not the brightest, and I feel that Xenia could she could probably lure him to one side, be like, have a look at my thighs. Ooh, there we go. Hans is out the way. Job done.
Yeah.
I feel, I must admit, I'm beginning to lean towards Xenia as the victor here. Now, I'll tell you why. Because I feel like the only way Blofeld is really going to get her is by outsmarting her. Now, that is his thing. He is the mastermind.
Yeah.
But I feel Xenia's going to be too smart to set foot on that bridge. She's not going anywhere near those piranhas. I feel she would have to penetrate the volcano, which, let's face it, is possible. Bond sneaks in disguise. Do you know what I mean? Well, in his ninja suit, he does sneak in, and he's undetected for a while. I feel like the volcano is proven to be penetratable. We've done that. So I feel with the right amount of sneakiness, Xenia could get into Blofeld's office, at which point what happens? So there's Hans. I feel like she could dispatch Hans reasonably easily. He's not one of those villains. He's not like a Jaws. He's just a burly dude that doesn't really do a lot. So I feel like Hans she could handle. And then it's Blofeld versus Xenia. I feel like it's just come here, grabs hold of him, does a bit of thigh squeezing, or even gets her AK-47 out and just blows him away. That's what I'm leaning towards. Have you got any thoughts, any arguments for the opposite side, maybe?
Oh, that was kind of leaning me towards your side of thinking. I could easily see, because when she's sort of dresses up as a pilot, because I was thinking to myself, well, there's no women inside the volcano that we see aside from Helga Brandt when she's there occasionally, and like a woman would stand out. But as we've seen in Goldeneye, when she's hijacking the Tiger helicopter, everyone thinks she's a guy, didn't she?
That's
a guy
true.
pilot. So we know that she can disguise herself as a guy. We know that, she can abseil off the helicopter, so she could do something similar in the volcano. So we know that she can get in that way. Okay, in sheer numbers, there is a lot of numbers against her, but, she could sneak past, I'm sure, maybe go in the monorail like Bond did to the right sort of place. I think she could get into the control room as well. Okay, like we said, Hans, I think she wouldn't have a problem with. So there are a few armed guards. But then, like you said, if she busts out her AK-47, that would clean them away. And then when it is just her and Blofeld, you're right. I think she'd be able to sort him out. So I'm very much leaning that way now. I'm just trying to think. Okay, as a counter argument, what else could Blofeld possibly bring to the table?
So what does ultimately is Xenia's failing? What brings her down? She gets hoisted on that helicopter winch into a tree. I don't think Blofeld has any squeezing apparatus that could hoist her by her own petard. So I'm struggling to find a reason for Blofeld winning this. I don't think I can do it.
No. Oh, well, I tell you what, he's a big lad in the world of villainy, but if you're happy to go with Xenia, I think I am too.
Let's do it then. So the winner for this week in Bond Celebrity Deathmatch is Miss Xenia Onatopp. Lovely stuff.
Yes, good stuff. So well done, Xenia. And Blofeld goes into potentially the
pool for the semi-final wildcard. Absolutely.
There we are. So next week, I already have the cards for next week here. I don't need to do any shuffling, but I'm not going to look.
Very nice.
It's always fun not to know.
Good stuff, absolutely. So basically, that's it for today's episode. Now, one thing we should also mention as well, again, if you're listening to this before the end of Saturday this week, make sure you go and get your JBR t-shirt. Just come to jamesbondradio.com. You'll see the little banner on the right-hand side. You can click it and go and grab your t-shirt. They're going to come off sale. You won't be able to buy them after this Saturday. So make sure you get involved in that. Saturday the 10th, that is. So grab your t-shirt now before it's too late. Also, we should mention on the podcast actually that we're going to be doing a London meetup pre-Spectre and post-Spectre. Obviously, we've got our tickets for the London Leicester Square 11:30 p.m. showing. Which reminds me of a rather heartwarming story, actually. We got an email from JBR listener Ralph Lewandowski, bless his heart. He's obviously over there in Germany, and his mother Lewandowski and Granny Lewandowski secretly bought him a ticket to our screening. She tracked down JBR. They worked out what screening we were going to go to, booked him a ticket for the screening and a return flight. So he's going to come along to the JBR meetup showing as well. Isn't that wonderful? Granny Lewandowski and Mama Lewandowski, we salute you for your efforts. Good stuff. It's going to be good to meet Ralph.
Definitely.
Though remember, Chris, don't start any fights with him because he's well hard, especially if he's well dressed, because that's going to cause some serious issues.
So I've heard.
Yeah. So there's that. So the 11:30 p.m. showing Leicester Square on the 26th. That's where we're going to be. Now beforehand, we're going to do a lunchtime gathering. So basically, what it is a place called Scarlett's in Covent Garden. We're going to be there from 1:30 for a bit of lunch, a few bevies, and to hang out with some fellow Bond fans. So you're all invited to that if you want to come along and hang out on the afternoon of the 26th. If you come to the Facebook page, you'll see a little event page for more details and addresses and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to hang out in the daytime before you watch the movie, totally anybody's welcome. So even if you're not watching it with us and you're going to the IMAX or lucky enough to go to the Albert Hall, fair play. But come along and hang out on the afternoon. That's 1:30. at Scarlett's in Covent Garden. Super relaxed, no dress code or anything like that. Just show up and leave whenever you want. It's just going to be super relaxed, and we'll just be hanging out there for a bit. And then afterwards, after the viewing at Leicester Square, obviously the movie's going to finish like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, something along those lines. Obviously, we're not going to be wanting to go to bed at that point. We're going to be wanting to stay up till God knows what o'clock talking about the film. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going to the 24-hour bar on Leicester Square, across the square from the cinema, in the Empire Casino. Now, basically, there's a bar in there, serves drinks all hours, and they serve food until like 4 a.m. as well. So if you're hungry, you can grab a snack. That's where we're going to be hanging out until the sun comes up, talking Spectre. Again, if you're coming out in the midnight showing at the IMAX or whatever, that's the place to be. So jump on if they'll probably be too late for the tube, but jump on a bus or whatever it is, get yourself over to Leicester Square, Empire Casino, the Carlsberg 24-hour bar, probably the best bar in the world, as they call it, and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to be hanging out there until basically the last man stands and we drop. So it's going to be a good day.
The important question: do they serve Vesper martinis?
They bloody well better do. Absolutely, I'm fairly certain they'll sell Carlsberg at the very least. But yeah, I'm sure we can wangle something. So there we go. Just to recap again: 1:30 in the afternoon for a lunchtime meetup at Scarlett's in Covent Garden, and then after Spectre till God knows what o'clock. No matter what cinema you've seen it in, get yourself to Leicester Square, 24-hour bar at the Empire Casino. And again, we've chosen those places because A, they're nice, and B, they're really reasonably priced as well, especially for like central London. So you're not going to be paying like 20 quid a pint or something ridiculous. It's going to be all affordable and good stuff as well. So there is that lovely stuff. So Chris, next week we have a rather special guest on the show.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to it, and I was the one that was lucky enough to do the interview. So I'm just going to put it out there, and I'm going to say I think this is going to be an all-time classic episode of JBR. A lot of people say, the Silver and Mason episode was a classic, which it absolutely was. The Battle for Bond episode, Norman Wanstall was a classic episode, without a doubt, all of those. But this is definitely going to be a classic episode as well, without a shadow of a doubt. Some of the stories I have heard, Chris, are amazing. It's just generally all around amazing. Can't say any more without giving any clues and hints. But
are we going to get any hints during the week, or are we going to totally leave it and then wait until next week?
I'm undecided. I think we'll probably leave it until the morning of the release, and then we might do a little hinty clue. But that's coming. So until then, I've been Tom Sears.
Mm-hmm. I've been Chris Wright. And
James Bond Radio will return with a special mystery celebrity guest interview that we're both very excited about.
It's going to be good.
We'll see you then. Take care. See you next week.
Have a good one, everyone. Bye.